was part of a bigger lot and then subdivided a long time ago. And based on the ordinance back, it met the ordinance back then, of course, but ordinances change a little bit and they get updated. So for current ordinances, it doesn't meet the size and the width. That's it. Everything else, it'll meet every other requirement that's there.
So it would need a variance?
It would have to go in front of the zoning board, yes it would.
Are there many trees to be cut down?
No, that's the good news about it. There's probably about, from what I recall from the survey and the concept plan, there's probably about 4 trees that have to be cut down, but not more than that.
And how much money are you looking to get from the county?
It's about $175,000. We already, we know we can get the money from HMFA already. We know we can get the money from DDD, which is the Department of Developmental Disabilities. And, we're just looking to get those additional dollars from the county.
The county would be getting you through their home funds?
I'm sorry?
Through their home fund?
Yes, correct.
Operation?
Yeah, correct.
So will there be a wooded area in the rear that's not going to be disturbed?
Yes, because what happens on the property is it rises, and then it goes across, and then it starts to drop, and where it starts to drop, it's wooded back there. And we're not going to touch that, yeah.
And that'll stay wooded?
That'll stay wooded, we won't touch that.
Question. We had a previous application that came in on a group home on Yacht Home, and we had asked if we can visit, one of the sister homes that they had. Is there an opportunity that maybe some members of the council or the public can come and visit one of your homes?
Oh, yeah.
Understand what it
I
is?
mean, on my, yeah, I'd say yes, but.
Yes.
Absolutely, that'd be not a problem at all. We actually have a program that Luciano is just wrapping up in Wayne. We'd be happy to take you there so you can see what the program will look like. The residents will be different that will be in the program here. Again, medically fragile. They may be ambulatory, they may be non-ambulatory. We're not sure of those exact details yet. There's a great need in the state of New Jersey for group homes in general for individuals with special needs, but even more for individuals with special needs who are medically fragile. Like Amma said, and we've experienced this in our own agency, individuals go into the hospital or they wind up going into, for some type of illness and they don't come out because they wind up being stuck in a rehab or a nursing home because there's nowhere for them to go.
And that's what we used to do,
Yep.
put them in the, more or less, when I was a kid, they used to call them asylums.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
And that's the worst thing you could do with somebody in that position.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a sister with special needs, so for me, this is very near and dear to my heart. And the way that we've operated, which is why I think we can both say we've been at the agency for so long, is because we acted and treat this as if we would treat our loved ones with special needs. What we'd want the program to look like, where we'd want them to live, Oakland, what the support we'd want them to have in a group home, and who they want advocating for them.
For emergency?
You said medically fragile. I mean, that has so many different connotations. Can you just describe what you mean?
Like,
Sure.
a lot of them
Probably
have,
with the politically correct words.
yeah, so medically fragile will be a person that will get feeding through the G-tube, through their abdomen. We have some members that will have tracheostomy. I've worked with, when I was young, years ago, with a member who actually has a tracheostomy. She was able to drive. She was able to do so much, but she needed that medical assistance. And that was all the way down in Lawrenceville, and they did have a medical for her. So she was able to still live within the community and live on her own and thrive. So,
Other special needs.
yes, we have special needs that it could be just more medical, a nursing eye and nursing observation for that person that a normal staff wouldn't be able to handle, where a licensed practice nurse or a registered nurse under the state of New Jersey will be trained to be able to respond faster and be able to aid the member and still give them the opportunity to still live in their own room, in their own house.
I think it's important to note, I'm sorry, Luciano. I think it's important to note too is that these homes are forever homes with individuals with special needs. So you move somebody in knowing and hoping that this will be their permanent place. And unfortunately, as our individuals have began to age, we work with individuals from 21 all the way to 75. As they've begun to age, it's become very apparent to us that we need to have a place, a safe place where we can put our residents and keep them within our care and keep continuing to provide the continuity of care, but focus on it more medically.
For medical emergencies, would you depend on the local ambulance squad, or would you call your own?
The local
We would call 911 for a medical emergency, an
Okay,
emergency.
so you would somehow interface with the first aid squad so that they can, like we have a couple of facilities over in the industrial park where they invited our first aid squad over to the building so that they can familiarize themselves with the floor plan, et cetera.
Absolutely, as
Yeah.
well as the police department and the fire department.
yes.
We introduce ourselves with so that they know who we are, what we do. We give them all of our contact information, so in the event of an emergency or any type of incident, they can contact any one of us, most likely me, directly.
We also in the past have also met up with the hospitals.
Absolutely.
Speak with them so they know who are the main contacts in the hospital in case an emergency happens. One of our members there, they know automatically contact Alma, contact Melinda, and then we'll automatically answer and.
So if it's for Forever Home, you might speak with them about some special service you might need from the first aid squad or fire department.
Sure.
And a lot of times they end up being friends. They end up knowing each other.
Yeah.
And they'll know who the person is and, if we need that medical assistance from them.
So emergency contact numbers and all you
All
give
that,
them,
yes.
right?
Absolutely.
I concur with you on the fact that there are a lot of need and not much availability. I'm with the Housing Authority, and we put a 40-unit special needs in Franklin Lakes, 40 units, and we had, in the course of 2 months, we compiled 625 applicants,
Yes.
but only 40
Yep.
were given.
Does anybody else have questions?
Yes.
So,
Yeah, one more question. Will these residents all require a car or the ambulance? How will they be moved around, or is every?
So normally what they'll do is they'll have a van.
Okay,
They'll take them to a day center,
okay,
and they'll have in a van, they'll go to the day center, and then, so what happens is, that's a good question, actually. So what happens is from, let's say, 8 till 3:30,
Yes.
they'll go to a day center,
okay,
and they'll be taken by van, and then when they come back home, they'll be brought back by van.
okay.
That's how
So you're
we do it.
providing all the
There'll be a
transport.
vehicle.
Correct,
Yes.
transportation, all of that, that's
There's
correct.
no garage on the property?
No, there's no garage on the property.
Yeah.
What, I'm sorry.
The LPNs would be doing the cooking for them too, or somebody?
Yes,
Yes.
The other-
assisting with them also because a lot of them can't do with help and training.
Mhm, mhm.
Anybody else? I think it's important to hear from residents who may be living.
yeah,
Are there residents
Yeah.
here who want to ask questions?
have you contacted the neighbors at all?
No, we haven't done
I
that yet.
just wondered, yeah.
And what I would also tell you is, I'm sorry. Mary.
No,
Yeah, the other thing I would say too is that, talking about the ratio, if you will, here you're talking 4 to 1. Normally at a nursing home, it's usually like 12 to 1. So the type of care they get is so much greater, so much more attention to them, that they just live a better life. That's the reality of it, so.
And if I may, Mayor, so the Department of Human Services licenses us at 4, and we are not allowed to change that capacity without having to go through a rigorous process to be reviewed, giving our testimony and defense as to why we think we need to raise it or lower the number of residents. And the state has definitely shifted their view, and they want individuals to have their own rooms. They want it to be a home-like setting. So with 4 bedrooms, it's at 4, and it's going to stay there.
do they have their own bathrooms?
They share bathrooms, so it'll be 2 persons per bathroom. But I do, to just follow you, Luciano, because this is, medically, fragile and medically needy individuals who will be in this program, the ratio will actually be even greater. So minimally, we always operate on a 2-to-1 ratio, so it'll be 2 residents to 1 staff member. So that will definitely be the minimum ratio that the program will have, if not a little bit more, depending on the needs of the individuals we choose to be in
Are
the
you
program.
inspected annually by the state?
Yes, we are, and they sometimes tell you they're coming, and oftentimes pop up unannounced.
We do.
Is there anybody in the audience who wants to
Are
ask
there-
any questions?
Are there towns that don't allow these group homes like this
Well-
to come into their communities?
Yeah, so that's a good question. No, you can't. It's, you look at the MLUL law, community residents are basically inherently beneficial. It's treated just like any other home. It's an R5 use or an R3 use or an R5 design, and it's treated just like any other residential home. So they can be, as long as they meet the criteria in the sense of the zoning ordinance, they can be placed at any time.
Go ahead.
Just another question, the previous group I was dealing with was, how many people, cars from staff will be there? 4, 5?
No, it'll be two staff at the most.
2 staff at the
Yeah.
most. And when does shift change normally take place?
Well, it's every 8 hours, so it
It's
all
every 8
depends,
hours,
yeah.
so-
Generally, the program will have a residential manager, so along with my supervision, they'll have a residential manager that focuses directly on that program that will have the experience necessary. And then you have, like Luciano said, generally you're looking at kind of like 9 to 3, 3 to 11, 11 to 9 as the shift. So we run on a hospital model. Like we said, everyone, there always has to be somebody in the program, to ensure that everyone's safe.
At any given time, you could have the van, well, the van's usually gone during the day.
Yes.
But at any time, you could have the van and 3 cars
Okay.
at any given time. And we set up the parking so that you'll be able to accommodate that.
Thank you.
And
It's
in
not
the
like there's a
building, I see,
limit. Go ahead.
in the building, I see there are 4 bedrooms, a kitchen, dining area. Is there an activity room?
There's a family room, and then there's a den.
Okay.
So no one else has a question?
There's, this is the second one we've had in under a year, which is interesting. Do you
That's
have
why I asked
plan-
about
Do
Oakland.
you have plans to continue to expand? Are there other locations you're looking at Oakland? Is this a town that you're looking to add homes? Because we do lose the tax on the property every time one of these comes in. Near and dear to my heart too, beautiful.
It's a
I'm all
business,
about
we
it.
understand.
But we do lose the
Sure.
tax on that property.
Sure.
Is there a pilot program in your agreement with the town?
No, there's no pilot program, no. Because they're because they are a 501c3, they would be, property taxes would be forgiven.
Do you have multiple homes in other towns?
We have, so in Pagoda we did 2. In Englewood, we did 2. In Hackensack, we've done 1. In Ridgewood, there's several. So yeah, there are townships that have more than 2, so
Okay.
that have multiple.
We are starting an Access for All committee.
Okay.
The mayor has tasked me with, I volunteered to step up and
And I
do that.
thank you, and I have the file for you.
So we're going to kick that off in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So maybe there's an opportunity for collaboration in the future
Yeah.
related to
Absolutely.
that. This is a new venture for me as well,
Sure.
so
Be happy to speak to you about that.
great, looking forward to that.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you
Mayor,
very
thank
much.
you. Council, thank you for your time. We appreciate, this evening. And if you could just let us know, in a time frame, because we have to get back to the
Do
county.
you
so-
have a time frame?
I don't know, say tomorrow around 5?
The president's
No.
borrowed around 9.
Yeah, I like that.
No, if within, is 30 days too unreasonable?
I don't know.
I think what you should do is just list it on the next agenda.
Yes, I'll talk about it.
Fair enough.
This is our first presentation, and it's nice meeting you.
Nice meeting you as well. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate
Have a great
it. Thank
evening.
you.
Thank you.
Thank you for
So
what you do.
before you leave, any residents have any questions about this? Okay,
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good night. Thank you.
all right, the next thing is to request for work on Saturday, November 6th for road repaving.
What time did I want to start?
The time here, it doesn't say, does it?
No, it does not say. Typically, in the past for Saturday work, you've limited the start time, I believe, to 9.
9.
Well, I've been getting calls from residents on, where's our engineer?
Right here,
You over there, you're hiding?
we stick together.
I would know.
You know, when I first became mayor, we had an issue with your predecessor not notifying residents about when they're going to be doing work in front of their house, et cetera, et cetera.
I was going to ask
Well,
that.
apparently, the same thing happened with the residents on Thunderbird, and they couldn't get out of their street. And somebody gave them notice, like 10 minutes, you gotta move your car. The street's gonna be milled and repaved. And then somebody said, well, move your car over to Minnehaha and just walk back and forth over 202. And that's unacceptable.
That's right, Mayor.
To talk to residents like that. We have to come up with a better plan. So if you're going to do milling, I don't know if this council is going to vote for it, but if there's going to be milling and paving on a Saturday, November 6th, you gotta give the residents notice, not 20 minutes notice or a half hour notice. You gotta give them notice.
Can't we isolate a section of town for a swift reach to call them and notify just a certain section?
Yes, we
I
have that
believe we have
ability,
that.
but we don't know
Well, and part of the challenge with this year's program has been, well, one, due to the weather, but rather frequent amount of scheduling changes. This is one here with this Saturday work for both Seminole, because it's a school route, and Glen Gray as well, that has remained constant throughout, right? So there should be no problem with making sure that there's adequate advance notice to the
Right.
residents on
Okay.
those streets.
But what happens when it rains? And you have to change the date. That's when the problems start. You still have to give them notice.
Yeah, yes,
You
ma'am.
can't give them notice to, it's going to be on Saturday, then it rains and they can't do it, so it's going to be Monday.
Has
You
to
gotta
be-
give them the same amount of advance notice. It's
Agreed,
out of a
adequate notice.
courtesy.
And if you could forward me that complaint on Thunderbird.
It's the residents, plural.
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Is Glen Gray on a Saturday, does that impact the use of the camp? That's that.
I would think it's gonna impact a lot of people
Because
if you close.
Eagle Scout, okay, I camp there, and that's when it's busy, is on a Saturday. That's when you're checking in Saturday night, Friday morning, depending. You know, a lot of times, you know, especially younger campers, they only do the one night, so they're getting there on Saturday. Or parents are going to visit, or a leader, a million situations. But that's busy on Saturdays because the camp's there.
Will
Duly noted.
will the gate be open from the reserve in case people have to get through if the road's shut?
I don't know, Councilman, but I will find out.
Well, if you're going to open the gate and have them go through the gate to the reserve, you have to notify the residents of the reserve.
Yes. Yes. The Camp Master Corps would be really upset if couldn't access the road in the camp on a Saturday.
So when you close the road for paving and milling, how long is it closed for?
Typically, you know, it takes at least 2 to 3 hours after it's paved for it to cure properly. So I will find out specifically what the plan is for Glen Gray before we enact it, taking into all these questions and concerns. And I will get back to Rich to make sure that they're all covered.
That's a prime camping weekend too.
And could you get back, and then Rich, could you get back to me, because I'm the one who gets the complaints.
Yeah, I can tell you, generally, what we do is there's an on or about notice that's distributed to everybody, which was done. I'm just explaining, so everybody understands. And then there's also supposed to be signage that goes up at least a couple days beforehand, okay? As I said, with this project this year, it seems that there's been an inordinate amount of scheduling changes on the part of the contractor that's kept us busy trying to update the website, update social media, and keep everybody apprised. So, you know, this is something obviously that's of concern to us as well. We were just having a back and forth with the traffic officer shortly before the meeting tonight about, you know, the contractor wanted to do some work on election day. And we said, no, absolutely not. You're not doing any work on election day where people may impact their ability to get to the polls and the like. But yes, John and I will confer and we'll talk with the contractor as well.
Do we ever use the police department's electronic sign about road closures? I mean, we could.
Could, I don't know that we typically have, but we can talk about that too.
But you can't do on or about, and then it rains, and so people have to understand that it could be the next day or 2 days later. You have to give people notice.
And also, John, would the project take place with the milling and the paving separately done?
Yes.
Oh, so it'll be milling first, which won't require hours of waiting.
That's
So
correct. Usually the
you'll
road
mill
is-
it, and then the people can drive back in,
Yeah, the big challenge is the paving.
is the paving, right?
The milling really, it just needs alternating traffic and people who drive slow. But the paving is a challenge.
Right.
To make sure it cures properly, and
So it'll be done on a different day.
that is correct.
That's, okay, that's what I was gonna ask. So you wouldn't mill it and then pave it?
Not on the same day, no.
No. And is it typically milled and it's a week later, or it's a day later,
I would say it's up to a week later. Typically, it's anywhere from 3 days to a week later. We don't like to have the road milled for a long period of time because it introduces hazardous driving, or difficult driving, rather, excuse me.
okay, thank you.
Roadstone.
Well, getting back to the time, I would say after, as long as it's 9 o'clock or later, I'd be okay with that.
We've always gone with after 9 on Saturdays.
But you will give the residents advance notice.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Is there anyone who disagrees?
I just, Mike, I voiced it already, but my concern about the camp.
Got it.
And Mawa will be notified as well?
Yes. Yeah, they have to be.
Yeah, half of the road is theirs.
Yes, and if you'll recall, Glen Gray is being paved under a shared service agreement with MAWA. It's actually their contractor, which turned out to be the same contractor that was the low bidder on our program as well. But it's being done under the auspices of the MAWA program.
And so that's, so it's MAWA's program, so is MAWA doing the notifying, or are we doing it, like?
That's, Councilman, that's when we're going to find out precisely.
We're going to make sure that the residents are notified.
We're also the engineers for MAWA, so
Okay, so that makes it a little easier.
that's my first inquiry is to Mike Kelly, who's my counterpart in MAWA. What are the notifications going on in MAWA, i.e. the camp? And then if that's covered under MAWA, I'm just concerned about what effect any of the detours have on Oakland,
Right.
et cetera, a la the reserve. So we will coordinate.
All right, thank you.
And if you do end up deciding to open up the gate, you have to notify in advance the reserve.
Yes, understood.
All right, so we have resolutions. We usually do the consent agenda. We're pulling out two. One is 21-306, opposed S3810/A5862. We've been informed by all the legislators, both the Senate and the Assembly, on both sides of the aisle, so we are, we want to make sure we hear that, from both sides, that this bill is going back for a second reading, for revisions, and it would be unfair to even consider it now because there are going to be many changes in all the legislators I spoke to, so that's going to be pulled out. And 31-312, authorizing a contract for appraisal, that's also pulled because we have decided we're not going to do it, so we don't need the resolution. So the rest will be consent agenda. After I read them, if anyone wants to pull any out, just let me know. 21-304, Chapter 159, Bulletproof Vest. This is that the Oakland has been awarded a grant from the Bulletproof Vest Partnership for $457.80 for the police department, and therefore has to amend its 2021 budget to include this amount as revenue. 21-305 is authorized contract housing rehab program services. It was submitted by the Community Grants Planning and Housing for a proposal for services of Community Grants Planning and Housing, and we awarded a contract for affordable housing rehabilitation program services to Community Grants Planning and Housing in Cranberry, New Jersey, for a period commencing January 1st, 2022, terminating December 31st, 2022, for a sum not to exceed $9,924. Our CFO has certified sufficient funds. 21-307 is hiring a public works laborer, and the superintendent of public works has recommended Thomas Brunetto be appointed to the labor position, and it will begin November 8th, 2021, and an annual salary of $40,603. 21-308 is the promotion to code enforcement officer. And by the way, all of these resolutions were discussed previously at other meetings. And this is a resolution to promote Vincent Dyes as part-time code enforcement officer at an hourly rate of $25 per hour, effective Thursday, October 28th, 2021. 21-309 is appointed Municipal Alliance Staff Liaison, and this resolution appoints Sergeant Mark Piercy as Municipal Alliance Staff Liaison for 2021 at an annual stipend of $1,500. 21-310 is to authorize submission of Municipal Alliance grant plan for the 2023 fiscal year. And Dieter, $4,507.18. Cash match, $1,126.80. In kind, $3,380.39. 21-311 is to refund taxes for a disabled veteran. On November 10th, Brian Fernandez at 26 Grandview Avenue, Block 2511, Lot 10, was declared permanently disabled by the Department of Veterans Affairs. He is granted a full property tax exemption as a permanently disabled veteran on July 30th, 2021, and taxes paid after July 30th, 2021 must be refunded, and it's the amount of $1,611.54 shall be issued to Brian Fernandez. And Mr. Fernandez, thank you for your service. Thank you. And that is it. Do you wish any pulled out?
Yeah, rocks.
Which
rock
one?
salt and
Oh, 313.
313.
313 and 314.
Oh, I should turn the paper over. Thank you.
That happens.
Thank you. Resolution 21-313, resolution of the Borough of Oakland for the purchase of rock salt through the 2021 New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance pricing system, and through the Bergen County Bid 21-56 Atlantic Salt, Inc. We are a member of the New Jersey Cooperative Purchasing Alliance, and they were awarded the contract, and the amount shall not exceed $75,000. And 21-314 is to authorize a lien on the property known as 255 Ramapo Valley Road, identified, and it's block 1901, lot 32. And there will be a lien because we had to provide DPW labor to fix the house, and so therefore there's a lien on the property in the amount of $1,480.88. And there is a report that is available if anybody wants to review. Now, does anybody wish to pull out any? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
So we have 3 ordinances, final ordinances. The first one is 21 Code 857 to amend the Recreation Code, and this has to do with the tennis courts and pickleball. Is there motions open to the public?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone wish to speak on this ordinance regarding the tennis courts and pickleball?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Is there a motion
Motion.
Second.
to adopt? Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
And the next one is 21 Code 860 to amend code on the clothing bins, to allow clothing bins at nonprofits.
So moved.
Second.
Now, this is to open to the public, right?
Yeah.
All in favor?
So moved.
Does anyone wish to speak about clothing bins?
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt.
So
Motion.
moved. Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes.
All right, ordinance 21 Code 861 is to amend the salary ordinance for the Municipal Alliance Staff Liaison. It will be a minimum of 500, a maximum of 2,000. Motion to open to the public.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Does anyone wish to speak on this? Motion to close.
Motion to close.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion to adopt.
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pignatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Ack.
Yes. Very happy about the clothing bins. No, that's
Thank you.
very good. Thank you.
Yeah, good. All right, we're changing the order because to help some people who are here or not here. So the first item under work session is the Allen Brook storm damage. You're on.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you for coming.
Of course. Excuse me. Thank you.
Just tell everybody who you are and what your position is.
Yes, ma'am. My name is Nicholas Agnoli. I'm a licensed professional engineer, and I'm the Borough Floodplain Manager. My background is flood control. And I thank the Mayor and Council for their time tonight. For an engineer, I'll try to be brief. That is, reset your expectations. That's not that brief. I was asked to put together a report following Hurricane Ida back in September, specific to the Alderman Brook. As most of you are aware, we got about 5 to 5.5 inches of rainfall during the September 2nd storm. This was after the Borough of Oakland, on its own dollar, did substantial work along Alderman Brook, made major improvements to remove blockages beneath Lakeshore Drive Bridge and also to restore some of the failed retaining walls. A lot of these walls were built in the mid-70s and have pretty much ended their design life and have done a phenomenal job up until now, but they are deteriorating. Along the length of the Alderman, which extends from Crystal Lake all the way up to Route 287, the majority of the river is hardened with gabion cages, which are just wire-enclosed rock. And again, longevity-wise, they've performed admirably considering they were built in the 70s and are only failing now. During and right after the storm, I personally inspected a pair of head waders from Crystal Lake all the way up to Route 287, and there are 5 locations that caused me some concern, which I'd like to describe to you briefly. Location number 1, as I stated, we as the borough had done a phenomenal job, again at the borough's expense. I give a lot of credit to the borough in cleaning out from underneath Lakeshore Drive Bridge. It was formerly about 50% blocked. Now this was a critical location, which is why the DEP had granted emergency authorization, because back 2 years ago, the bridge was partially blocked and there's about 40 homes that rely on that opening for flood control purposes. And when I re-inspected it, immediately following the September 2nd event, it's about 25% blocked. So some of the work that we had done and worked so hard on has already been lost. And I'll explain to you where that rock came from, because that's what I found when I hiked up the river. There was also a wall failure at 40 Nokomis. Again, it's a partial failure, fortunately. A section of these cages that were built in the 70s slid a bit down the slope, exposing soil along the top of the hill slope there. Some of the emergency work that had been done on Sioux Avenue also saw a little bit of undermining, very, very minor. The wall's holding up very well, I'm very proud to say. And I also want to say all the work that the borough did, all the retaining wall construction, held up perfectly. There was no major movement whatsoever of all the work that borough did in 2019, which is a credit to the construction oversight, but also the contractor's work. The 202 culvert, also on the Allerman, also saw some buildup of material, not to the extent of Lakeshore Drive, but enough that it caught my attention. What I found interesting was the source of the material. When we inspected the 287 construction work, okay, on the culvert, all of the rocks that we had photographed 2 years ago, all of the material that we had photographed was gone. So all this material that had been previously up along the 287 construction work, that's the material that is now built up at the 202 culvert, but also under the Lakeshore Drive Bridge, which again the borough worked so hard to clear. So my concern on behalf of the borough is it looks like a lot of material that moved down was no fault of the borough's at all. Actually, it was part of the construction site, and that material has now moved down underneath the Lakeshore Drive Bridge, which as your engineer, as your floodplain engineer, it creates some concern for me because we spent a lot of time and effort clearing that bridge because it's so important for the residents, but now material is starting to build up again. So what has transpired this week, on a very positive note, is we had, and when I say we, I'm talking myself, Mr. Kuntz, and also Roy Balberger, your OEM official. We had very successful meetings with both NRCS, which is National Resource Conservation Service, about grant opportunities from them. It's a 75-25 grant from National Resource Conservation Service, and also with FEMA. And when I say successful, I say it's successful because they're going to come out and take a look at the sites, which means they agree that it falls within the grant programs that they are offering. And I'm optimistic that when they come out and meet within the next 2 weeks, professionals here in the borough, that not only would be, I would like to think we'd be able to acquire funding, but we can also get a timeline in place as to when these very important projects can begin. I don't have that for you tonight, only because I'm now waiting for NRCS and FEMA, but I'm extremely optimistic based on the last phone calls this week.
Time would be of the essence, I would think.
100%.
And RCS, where is that from?
Oh, NRCS is National Resource Conservation Service.
It's federal.
Yes, ma'am. It's a federal agency, but the division we're dealing with is New Jersey based.
Yes. For the working with FEMA is Is this because it was declared a disaster area?
Yes.
That they're moving very quickly to really address the situation?
That's exactly right, yes.
So that really opens up a door for funding coming from the federal government?
I certainly
Because of
believe it
IDA?
does, yes.
Yeah, and so we had a conference call yesterday.
Yes, sir.
And we have another meeting scheduled for November 10th. I think the initial feedback that we got, we all felt was overwhelmingly positive. And as you had pointed out, that because this was a federally declared disaster area, it opens up funding channels that were not available in 2019, that are not normally available for this sort of work. NRCS is a little bit different. It's a structured grant program. And right now we're kind of taking a dual track approach to see what would work best for us and what would work quickest for us to be able to do. So
Yeah,
we
applying
reached
for
out
one,
to-
like applying for one does not knock you out for applying for the other.
Correct. And we confirmed that with FEMA, and we're looking to schedule a site visit with NRCS within the next 2 weeks.
Do you think there would be availability of contractors to do this
Yes.
work? You don't think they'd have a problem getting any?
I do not. I do not, only because the work, while specialized, is in the wheelhouse of most construction companies, because it's pretty much, our biggest concern right now is removal of material, which most construction firms can handle, get it out of the floodplain, right? And then the other item, which is, stacking of gabion work, cage repair, pretty much. The majority of contractors that do road work are able to do that. Yeah, so I'm very optimistic.
Doing the same thing that they did 2 years ago.
Mary, yes, it's almost identical to work, actually, which is why, again, my confidence is high. Not only was it done very well last time, but the proof is in the pudding, it held up.
You said something interesting just before, that there was some material that got washed down from 287. Could you expand on that? Whose material and what are we talking about?
Oh, I would love to expand on that, actually.
That's
So-
the state that we've been trying to talk to.
Yeah, we're estimating right now that the deposition below, just a couple numbers for you, below Lakeshore Drive Bridge, we're looking at about 260 tons of material, and then below 202, it's about 35 tons. So it's not a small amount. And the material is largely angular rock, which was the material that when we went up to the 287 exit ramp, exit 58, the base of that slope is gone, has washed out. And the majority of the material that is now missing was that large diameter rock. The rock that is, you'd be amazed at the size of the material that is underneath our bridge.
Does this material, who does this material belong to?
I believe it belongs to the DOT.
So this is state of New Jersey materials that are washing down through Allen and
So
Borough.
taxpayer
That's my belief, yes.
paid for by the state material.
And I love free stuff. It just, I don't want this.
Have we
You
contacted?
said 260 tons and then 35 tons, so almost 300 tons.
That's correct, yes.
Of this rock.
Yes.
Has the
Do we
sta-
know a cost of how much that is? Sorry, Councilman.
Good.
Actually, I'll allow the borough engineer, if you'd like to speak to that point. I know you've looked into some numbers.
Yeah, I don't have it with me this evening, but we did estimate the removal of it. I don't know if Rich has it.
I do. Looking at least $50,000, probably more.
Hypothetical, if I'm digging out a septic pool area for my backyard, and I pile all the material up along my property line, we get hit with a storm, and it all washes onto my neighbor's property, my neighbor wouldn't be responsible to clean it up. It would be mine.
I actually love the way that's phrased, Councilman. No, that is still your material, and you're still responsible for getting it out of there, yes.
So why is not the DOT responsible for going back and recovering the material? And I was there. I went down and looked at it.
Yes.
And on the lakeside, there's an S curve
Yes.
in the rock line. It's meandered its way
That's
through.
what material is built up, yes.
Exactly, and it's underneath the bridge.
Yes.
And it's off to on the other side, going up, everything on the right-hand side is impacted. I mean, it's covered like more than half of the going underneath the bridge. So there is a large amount, and going up, I walked up Allen Brook, and all along the brook, it's filled.
Yes.
So why wouldn't the person responsible for it, as I would be if it were my property and it went onto my neighbor's property, why isn't the DOT accepting responsibility for something they were inherently involved in and produced?
As your professional, I cannot answer that question. I
Well,
do not know
you
why
can't-
it's,
It's like what they say, we're preaching
If
to
they don't
the
wanna pay for
choir.
it.
other
We're
than the
preaching
others,
to the
yes.
choir.
They
It's
play
not
by a
only
different
up
set
to
of
us.
rules than everybody
We're
else?
pushing the
Yeah.
state. And I had one resident, I remember she told me, she would be in her, I forgot what her name was.
Judy.
But she was in her bedroom, and she
Sure.
said it sounded like a bowling alley, that the boulders were coming
Well, I was there
down.
that night, that's exactly what it sounded like.
Yes,
The
the
large,
boulders were coming
Yes.
down and hitting each other as they were coming down.
Yeah, it's
And
terrifying.
then- And then when you go to the other side of Lake Shore, under the bridge, where it goes into the lake, she's losing a lot of property also, and that's where it already widens out.
Yes.
So, that's what we're doing, we're trying to get the state involved. I mean, it's been
If-
a lot.
If the material is recovered, that cost, spending that 50,000 to remove it, can it be used again?
Oh, absolutely. If this is, we could sell it back to the DOT, but my thought is,
At a market?
but no, on a serious note, yeah, the material, because of the nature of what it is, which is a
Right.
large diameter rock, yes, it's,
So why wouldn't they remove it and then reuse it? Because to me, that's
You're
very
asking-
wasteful
Like I said, you're
of
pushing
resource.
the
That's why I
choir.
asked for how much 295 tons of this rock cost.
and if I may, the other thing to me that's a little frustrating is they're mobilized right now. They have construction crews out there doing the work. You know, normally the difficulty is getting a contractor out and getting things moving, which I understand, but they are mobilized now. They have the equipment needed, because we were talking a moment ago about the expertise and what's needed. Well, the equipment they have, certainly since they placed the construction roads by Allerman, they certainly have the material to, the equipment, excuse me, to recover the material and bring it back.
We're trying.
Yeah. No, and Mayor, I don't want to sound like I'm on a bully pulpit. I'm disappointed with the response.
So now, okay, so all of that aside, where are we? What are we doing moving forward? You know, what's the necessary remedy? Are we worried that you know, something more is going to happen? What do we have to do?
We are, and my concern is, on behalf of the public, what I don't want to see is there to be blockages that affect a lot of residents, or any residents. So I would say what we're doing is, we're under, and again, I don't want to sound cynical, but on the presumption that DOT doesn't step up and do anything, we are currently following a funding track, assuming that we have to do all of it. Meaning we have to remove the material, we have to restore the retaining walls, that we are on the hook to do everything. So I don't want to make it sound like we're just waiting on our hands for DOT. We're not. We're saying, look, if you don't act, we are chasing, with Mr. Kuntz, we're chasing down grants from NRCS and also for FEMA. So I do want to be clear that those grants are for everything. That's the presumption, that no one does anything to help us, that we do it all ourselves.
If we do it, would that negate us from getting a grant to reimburse us?
Well, and that's one of the things,
You start the project, yeah.
that's one of the things that we're looking at and why we're kind of pursuing both paths, right? Because a lot of times with FEMA, it's a reimbursement basis. This NRCS program, it does require pre-approval. So it really requires some further discussion, and I think the site visits will help in determining what our likelihood of success is with each program, and what that may mean in terms of the timeline of actually getting out there and getting the work done.
Is there an emergency procedure for us to apply for?
Yes. What's interesting is the grants are very, very specific, which isn't always the case, and they are for removal of debris, which is what we're suffering from right now, and also for stream side restoration. So we're fortunate in that the nature of the grants are identical to the problems that we're having right now.
Would it help for our congressman, since this is...
Well, I was just going to say, but you stepped in. Can I finish that sentence?
I'm sorry?
I've been on the phone with the congressman.
Okay.
And he's coming back from Washington on Saturday. And depending on, you know how flights are,
Yes.
he's going to meet us, and I promised Charlie to let everybody know, and Mr. Fernandez, to know that if we do get the congressman to come Saturday, to have all the neighbors come out, and he'll walk. I mean, I walked in someone's backyard. It was your backyard when I walked in, and I thought, you probably thought who was I?
No,
It was raining.
you
We
encountered
got
our
Tuesday
son.
morning, and that was really scary, watching how fast
May
that
I
was.
add something to
Yes,
that, please?
it's important, because it's your property.
Well, I feel that because of the fact that Crystal Lake was drawn down last week because people are doing their dock repairs, the lake was way lower than it usually is, and it was a blessing for us
Yes.
this time,
Definitely.
because
think
it
that's
allowed
helpful?
the water to exit down Alaman Brook easily, because there wasn't much water in Crystal Lake. It's already filled all the way back up.
But it was coming very fast. That
Very
water was
good, and that
running.
wasn't half as bad as during Ida. I know, I'm so glad you went there and saw it with your own eyes.
I couldn't
but
believe it. I just couldn't believe
It's
how fast it
frightening.
was going.
But this time we were blessed because the lake was half empty. And
So-
people that live on Lake Shore were remarking at how incredibly fast the lake filled back up
Mhm.
again and encroached on their properties again. So I'm curious what that work is that they're doing up there. Is it making it worse? Are they
Yeah.
bringing more water in right now? That's what
Are
I
you talking
think.
about up the DOT?
Yeah.
Nick,
It's like more
at
water's
the exit.
coming.
Nick, I gotta ask you a question. Why isn't the DOT or any government agency held to the same standards that I would be held to for my neighbor? Why aren't they held to the same standards for responsibility of doing something that has a negative impact on our municipality, and then they turn around and say, okay, it happened, but we had nothing, we're not gonna do anything?
I can speak only from experience. I was formerly a state engineer. I was chief engineer of the Meadowlands Commission. And as a state engineer, I was always held to the same standard as residents would be, which is why I'm frustrated right now. I don't have an answer for that question. I don't know, for instance, if I, as a resident, chose to dump rock in a river tomorrow, you
DEP's
best
gonna
believe I'd be
after it.
accountable for my actions and I'd be made to remedy. You know, so I wish I could answer your question. I do not know.
I know a
Maybe a
guy in
question,
Edgewater that
can-
tried to build
can we s-
a parking lot in the Hudson River, and he got caught.
My only idea was that'd be a great way to get rid of state vehicles, or township vehicles, borough vehicles. If you put it on another property, it's no longer your responsibility. If you dump it on 287, by that logic, it's not yours anymore.
Yeah,
Cost savings for the borough.
Can we take any action against the DOT if they don't cooperate?
can we? Yeah.
I think at the onset, I would recommend, no, I would recommend just, trying to go through the
Well,
proper
that's what I'm
channel.
saying, but if it's a hard no, we're not gonna do it. We don't care that we spent X amount of dollars on almost 300 tons of material, and we screwed all this stuff up for these lovely people here.
Oh, I was a
And-
designer, I'm furious. I was,
So we're not
this is
gonna
my
do it. So
project.
we get to that, so hypothetically, we get to that point, is there action we can take?
Well, Councilman, I have been in touch with DOT. I have Richard's been in touch, our engineer's been in touch, you're in touch. I've been calling our assemblyman, who is the most accessible.
Yep, he's
I've been on
great.
the phone with our congressman. I figured somebody has to, when you get enough people and ask enough people, someone's going to help us.
Yep, at the same
And-
time, look, we've been talking about all these accidents on 287 for all these years, and
And took
they
it
put up a sign, okay? But it's
5 miles away.
Right.
Mr. Agnelli, can I just ask a quick question?
Please.
When the current construction that's going on right now by 287, I know they were moving a lot of material in for that construction. Did
Yes.
that material get lost also?
Yes. That's a very good question, because it gives a very
So
direct
I
answer.
just want, I'm sorry, just for my own edification. So there's existing material that got washed away?
Yes.
Okay. And now we've got DOT working on the exit ramp again with more material that was put in there, which that also washed away?
Yes.
Okay, I'm sorry, I just want to make sure.
No, that's a great way of looking at it, actually. Right, some of the embankment continues to erode, but their construction access road that was built of large rock, a lot of that got washed away as well. So Oakland suffered twofold. You have the hill slope along the exit ramp succumbing to erosion, that's showing up by us. But also you have their construction access road that we're using to try to fix some of the undermined sections of their retaining walls, that washed out as well. So you have the embankment washed out and their construction access road washed out.
Are we taking photographs of it?
Yes.
Yeah.
I actually took videos of the bridge yesterday morning, just after sunrise, so you can see what the water levels are, like at kind of the peak for that storm.
So,
Now, let me ask you, because it was very muddy on Tuesday morning, the rushing water.
Yes.
Sometimes, but I've seen it where it's been clear, so the muddy water, is that significant of something?
Well, it's a sign of erosion. I mean,
It was muddy.
it would, again, a lot of and I'm not saying this is certainly from the hill slope, that I don't know. But there's a lot of denuded soil, meaning just bare earth up there now. And I'm worried about that material coming down as well. So my biggest concern right now is the large rock, because that's going to create large
And it's
blockages.
also taking away their property, so bits and pieces of their backyards are falling into the brook also.
Predominantly from the DOT properties, yes.
Well, what about the residence property?
Yeah.
Yes,
His
Mr. Diploma.
is eroded probably 4 or 5 feet.
Yeah.
So, okay, but so again, so where are we? What's the plan? What are we doing?
The plan, the short game right now is in the next 2 weeks, we want to make sure that we have gone after any federal funding that exists. And again, we've gotten very positive feedback initially, but we have to have them come out there and take a look at the project. It does fall within the very specific language of both grants, both FEMA and NRCS. Now, if that is unsuccessful, then we'll be back here to discuss alternatives, because that would, again, probably necessitate a harder stance with DOT. Again, my recommendation to you now is bird in the hand. It looks like we are eligible for 2 very substantial grant programs, and I want to focus my efforts there on your behalf. And then if that doesn't work out, I'm happy to come back here and discuss alternatives.
Now, in your professional opinion, if you just had to make a guess,
Oh,
not
boy.
holding you to it, a guess.
I'm ready.
If we just had no money coming in, how much would it cost the borough to do what we really have to do to fix this?
Approximately $500,000.
Okay.
Mr. Jakowski, is there any legal
I was
action?
going to ask him for the money.
Is there any?
I can give you 5.
Is there any legal action that we could take against the DOT?
Well, first, state agency, you'd have to file a tort claim notice in order to proceed. But I would suggest we wait the next 2 weeks to see where we are before we make that determination. The state has responsibilities too, but they're like any other governmental agency. You file the tort claim notice, they will evaluate it. In all likelihood, they will probably deny it, and then you can make a determination whether you want to pursue any action.
Nick, have we reached the top of the food
Thank
chain
you.
in DOT as yet?
Thank you, Pat.
I actually, I'm going to return that question to the borough. I don't know how far up the chain we've gone, to be blunt. I've only been on the.
I know we spoke to the person that's the regional manager.
Right,
But
right,
have we
and
gone up
and
to
then I
the-
think that we were trying to work through Assemblyman Off's office predominantly to help intercede on the borough's behalf.
And he's been great.
Yeah, I saw Assemblyman North the other night, and I said I just want to make sure you know about, and he said Alaman Brook. He didn't even, like he knew it was right on his mind.
But as you said, we're going to go after the 2 grants,
Yes.
but we should not stop our determination to have the rightful culprit pay the damage or fix the damage.
No,
And
I
that's the DOT.
agree. I agree.
Mr. Agnelli, one other question in regards to that. How often does the DOT engineer come over to inspect the work? Daily, weekly?
Typically on construction sites, daily.
So they come daily.
Yes.
So my question to you is, and I guess to you, Mr. McKimmick, I mean, now that we know there's this problem with this erosion, everything's washed away, they've lost material, are we not that we want to keep an eye on their engineer, but I mean, should, at the very least, the DOT engineer, now that we know they have a problem, at least provide a report to the borough, to our engineer?
I mean, John, I would turn to you on that one. I've been up there almost every week just photo documenting the condition of the site because, again, I think it's clear as day that the material's coming from there. But John, I don't know if you've interfaced with their engineer.
I'll tell you this, it's a little frustrating. I mean, DOT has a standard policy that if I show up at a site, none of those contractors are allowed to talk to me. All communications with the DOT must go through their community relations person.
Can we get you up by the microphone so the residents can hear?
Yes, I'm sorry. John Ukemic, Boswell Engineering, town engineer. You can stay there, man.
Okay, good.
The DOT's typical policy is that if I show up or a resident or anybody shows up, a mayor, at a construction site, the contractors are told not to talk to anybody and that all communications must go through their community relations person, who in this case is Anthony Sitko. I try to go there and I try to use my savoir-faire to get as much information out of them as possible. And, I believe I've let them know, at least on one occasion, on what they're doing and the detriment, that my concern about it. And this was, I believe, before Ida. But again, on deaf ears, and any communications we get, it's usually through not the engineers and the contractors, but it's through the community relations person. And unfortunately, they give the standard response. And in this particular case, it's not our jurisdiction. And that's insulting.
They said that right in the beginning when we wanted them to do that initial construction. So
And-
they
and
kept
it's-
saying it's not their jurisdiction.
And I shared the blood boiling that Nick does, when you get a response like that, that tells me that that person didn't even spend the time to go into the details
Right.
of what is involved and gave out the standard DOT response, not our jurisdiction.
So I guess the question is, if they're gonna play hardball, how do we shut the job down? Until they provide a report or something to us?
Have to get an injunction.
Well, I don't know if just stopping the
Well,
job, I don't
to-
even know what the job is.
To that point,
I asked a couple meetings ago.
Yeah.
I'd like to see a full report from the
What
DOT
exactly
on
are
what
they
they're doing
doing?
and why they're doing it and how it has an impact on the borough of Oakland.
I can answer that question by the mayor. The current job, their current scope is they had, and this was thanks to the borough, we're the one who notified them.
I know,
yeah,
There was a concrete retaining wall along exit 58,
right.
and it's undermined, which is why we're standing here right now. It's part of the reason we're standing here. So the material underneath the wall is gone, and they initially said, it's fine. Then they decided, okay, yeah, it's a problem,
But
we're gonna
first
come
they
back.
said it wasn't their jurisdiction.
I believe you're correct.
Yes.
But they decided
Standard line.
we're going to fix our own wall, which I thought was very generous of them. So they were going to come in and bring in large rock material at the base of the wall, and that is part of what I was saying swept away. Not only the access road, right, to get down there with large equipment, but some of the actual rock itself they were placing below the wall, that actually washed out, and there's a sale on it right now. It sounded like
I checked to the question that I just heard before. I checked where they park their vehicles, make sure they're not parking them on borough property. I also was thinking out of the box on what, if anything, we could do to stop them or to put some sort of injunction on their work. They go across the street to eat lunch. Maybe we could tell the guy.
Well, what would happen if they stopped? How does that affect Almond Brook?
I don't think it puts it at risk.
I don't think
It
so
won't make it
either,
worse.
Mayor. I mean, the DOT is just protecting their asset, which is the retaining wall that retains the exit ramp. That's all they care about, frankly. And they don't care about the boroughs that they work in or the municipalities that they work in.
Okay, so now,
But what happens if they stop?
with the
As I say, Mayor, I don't believe there's a major risk to the DOT's property at this time, right? If they stop work right now.
No, I'm not worried about them, I'm worried about Almond Brook.
Oh, no, I
Stop.
follow where you're going with this. They're bringing in material and just stacking it blindly at the foot of this retaining wall doesn't serve the community interest, because I already believe some of that material is already moving down toward us. So if it stopped, what would the impact be? I don't think anything negative.
No, I
The
don't think
imported
so
material
either.
is too small, in my opinion. My professional
Right.
opinion is too
Right.
small. Would you agree?
They keep
Right.
going, they're bringing in more material, which is gonna end up in our backyard.
Yeah, I know where it is. I'm
Right.
finding it at Lakeshore Drive.
Right.
Now, there are trees coming down because the big stones are breaking, literally in
Yes.
our backyard yesterday next to Charlie, there's a big tree laying across that. That's gonna hit the bridge. It's gonna end up like this, it's gonna impede the flow, rocks are gonna stop and it'll be over the bridge. Come Friday, everybody, because it's another storm Friday. Come
Yes.
see, it's gonna impede.
That's
that
why I
bridge.
come down every morning on the way to work, I stop off and I look.
Normally, it's very hard to figure out, because I've been asked this question many times by municipalities I serve. It's very hard to figure out where material is coming from. Peckman River and Little Falls, it's common. While this material keeps coming down, it's hard to figure out where. This one is actually very clear, because we've been photo documenting this for years and years and years while we do the Alderman Brook inspection 4 times a year. Well, in photo 1 from 2019, there's all these rocks. You take the photo now, all the rocks are gone. And oh, by the way, under Lakeshore Drive Bridge, we have a pile of rocks. So it's not, I feel very strongly that this is very clear where it's coming from.
the last time when you guys did the work on Alderman Brook.
Yep.
There was a problem, and then it was like, uh-oh, we gotta go do this.
Yep.
And then like, the next day we were there. All right, so what's the difference between that and now?
Oh, sure.
Bigger scope.
At the time, there was a couple things going on. And there was multiple retaining wall failures right in front of the bridge. I was worried on your behalf, not only that the bridge could get blocked, I was worried about the condition of the bridge itself. So on both sides, you lost retaining walls, and it wasn't like it is now where you have 20%, 25%. It was over 50% blocked. And I was worried for the residents immediately upstream, but anybody who used that to drive, that the bridge might not be sound anymore. Okay, I was very nervous about that. And I was also really nervous that if we had a follow-up storm right behind it, that we'd flood everybody out directly above the bridge. That was a difference of that event. I think what's happened now is terrible. That one was more dangerous. That's the
But people
difference.
are losing their backyard.
Oh, no, again, I don't want to sound,
We
I'm
don't want
not
to
cold enough as well.
minimize things here, but.
I mean, Charlie lost a 3-foot gate beyond basket that used to be in his backyard, and now the one that used to be level is now 3 foot down.
Yeah.
Because the underpin basket is gone.
Well, and again, those cages, again, they were built in the 70s. I'm not that surprised that they're moving. It has to get fixed. But I can tell you that this issue, I don't want to make this bigger and bigger, but we will inspect all of the sections along the Alleman, obviously. What I did was an urgent need, just check the areas that had noticeable damage. But obviously, I'll start from Crystal Lake and go all the way up to 287 and check every single cage.
Right.
Because I don't believe, again, you are now at 50 years, at least, on the system.
And from what I've heard, cages have a life expectancy of 18 to 25 years.
You're not wrong. No, you're right there. And now they code them and they do things differently. But for how it was constructed at the time, it's actually done very well. So no, what you're saying is correct. Back then it was just galvanized wire. They wouldn't last that long. Now it's, again, PVC coated and they do a better job. But the reality is they're well built for the time. And they've done a very good job. It's just they're old.
They're breaking because they're getting bashed by the boulders.
That's not helping.
But are they connected? Charlie's baskets are connected, we're next to Charlie. Are they all connected on
Yes.
the Joel?
Yeah, they're all wired together. Yeah, if in fact, it's interesting. If you, well, to me, Charlie was kind enough to provide some amazing photos from the 70s, what clearly showed back then it was a trapezoidal channel with no trees, right? Now trees have grown up and that breaks the wires, and people have expanded the properties a little bit and placed stuff on top of them, which puts a little weight on them. But yeah, they're all wired together all the way from the bridge at Lakeshore Drive, almost all the way up to 287.
Oh.
And I don't know who did the project, to be blunt, because that's a massive project.
Back then.
Yeah, back then. I was not alive.
Can we have our borough
Not
attorney
me.
just send a letter to DOT and ask for a report? Is that unreasonable?
It's not unreasonable, but you won't get a response.
But I mean, shouldn't we at least send something down and then go build on from there?
I mean, but who do you send it to?
We've
and who
been
would it-
calling, we've
Yeah.
been.
DOT commissioner.
We've been doing everything.
Okay.
We just have to keep calling,
We could-
they say the
we
squeaky
could
wheel,
certainly
we'll just
send
keep
the letter
calling
to
and
the
keep
commissioner.
pushing.
I support sending that letter, for sure.
I support going down to the DOT and having a face-to-face.
No, having them come up here.
Who's the individual you said all these communications have to go through? Anthony?
Anthony Sitko.
Sitko.
Can you spell that?
SYTKO.
He replaced Debbie Hurt.
Not SI? It's
SY.
I believe so, John.
He replaced Debbie Hurt.
Yes.
Debbie Hurt was always, you call her up, she answers the phone.
It's the same Anthony.
And she came
Listen,
right
he
back
was an
with-
elected official.
If not the right
Maybe.
way, words, she came back
He
with
used to be.
words that at least made you feel good that she's working
Gotta
on
look
it.
him up.
Yeah, the response has been
Just
disappointing.
thinking about
Yeah.
it.
You
It's
think that-
insulting.
Sitko
It's
was
not
You think, well, you
disappointing.
think that the public safety would be a little higher up in the list. I don't understand.
Well,
Like
we're
my engineering
hoping some
side
elected
explodes.
officials down in Trenton could help us. Like I said, I have the congressman coming, maybe with everybody pushing and calling, maybe their phone calls get more reaction than ours.
I mean, I'd write you 30 reports if I thought it would help. I mean, anything they need to know. We've been collecting data for years on the Alleman Brook. And the borough, I give a ton of credit to the borough. You're one of the few municipalities that actually fixes stuff. You spend a lot of money. You spend hundreds of thousands of dollars fixing a public safety problem. And then to have it get partially damaged after all that hard work, it's terrible.
So you've got reports and everything ready to go. Mr. Coons has them?
Yes.
All right, so if any of us want to go down and take a road trip to Trenton, we could go down with a folder, start banging on doors and shaking trees?
Yeah, it was the day after it occurred. We did a detailed report, and we were clear. It says it's from DOT property. The rock is from
And you
there.
said you have a
Thank you.
video.
Yes,
You
I
have a
do.
video if we need
I
it.
can email
In the
it
back,
to
we have a
whoever
video.
provided
I'll
it.
send it to us.
Thank you.
And I have the
Thank you.
pictures from you. from
Yeah, and
Palmer.
you can see, even in the video, you can see where the water's rushing over rocks that are just barely below.
I go down there in the mornings,
Yeah.
especially after a rain. I lie in bed hearing the rain, and then that morning I come down.
It was a major storm. I mean, it's a 5-inch rainfall event in a short amount of time. I mean, it was tossing rocks like they were nothing. You know, we estimated it was moving about 10 feet per second, the water. That's very fast.
It was fast.
That's dangerous.
Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Nick.
Thank you. That was short for me.
Thank you.
All right, what is the best practices inventory, do you have to discuss that?
No, really, it's, the requirement is that you're provided with it, you're provided with an opportunity to discuss it if you'd like. I did provide a report in the packet on it. You had a copy of the inventory. You can discuss it, or if you're all, good with it, we'll just submit it by the deadline of November 3rd.
Thank you. All right, we're moving things around because of time, the time factor, and because of timeliness of something. We have to talk about, because we are within time constraints of the notice of appeal from the zoning board. So I put this on because this was the vote of the zoning board to give a use variance to the garage auto repair shop in the middle of town. And this woman, who is a resident, Ms. Brennan, voted this appeal to the borough, saying that she listened to the meetings. She couldn't come to the last meeting. She told me she was very sick. And she wrote the appeal because when the zoning board gives a use variance, they have to, the applicant has to show that the positives outweigh the negatives. And the appeal that she wrote, which was very succinct, she said she listened to all the minutes, she listened to the meetings, and she listened to the report by our engineer, Mr. Yakimic, who said the site cannot support the required parking. The applicant did not address future widening to Hune Road as noted on the master plan. And if you don't know what we're talking about, the site is the old Oakland Drugs. That an applicant came forward, I don't know how you pronounce his name, it's Elahi Fuel Inc. And I think, does he own the gas station?
Tire Tech.
Tire Tech, oh, thank you. So he bought, I don't know if he bought it or it was a conditional purchase pending the application, but he wants to build a garage for auto repair and truck repair. And they had you were there, many meetings, and that the borough engineer, Mr. Yakimic, talked about the traffic issue, the traffic report. Then Mr. Leiden, our borough planner, said they failed to demonstrate a need for the use, that there are 75 permitted uses in the zone. Any deviation must show that the applicant's use is more important. And then finally, her last paragraph, she said the applicant's plan, with the master plan, this is a use variance, is a variance to give somebody the opportunity to build something that's not part of that zoning. And the last paragraph, the chairman said, she said before the final vote, he stated the positive criteria has not been, this is from the chairman of the zoning board, the positive criteria has not been satisfied, particularly in the suitability of the site. The applicant has been a good neighbor and wishes the board could help him out, but this is the wrong spot, and then he voted for it. So here is an appeal. Our borough ordinance has it that if a resident appeals a decision by the zoning board, it has to come before the council, whereas back if it's an appeal in other towns, I think they can go back to Superior Court.
Right to court.
So this is an appeal. We have and the reason I'm bringing it up now, it has 95 days for the council to make a decision what they want to do. Now, I know there's a presentation about the revitalization of the downtown. And I say, well, here we are going to be in the middle of the downtown. There's going to be a garage to fix cars and tires. And I hope everybody on this council read her appeal that the use of this in the middle of town. And what got to me was every time I would drive home from work, I live on the other side of town, I'd see all these trucks parked in the old Oakland Drugs parking lot. And I called Mr. Kunz, I said, I hope they're getting a violation. And so they did get new, at least 5 violations of trucks parking in that parking lot. And the zoning officer said, the property has only stopped the storing of vehicles when they're going to have a meeting. The next day, they went back to storing vehicles in the lot each time after they got the summons. So I talked to a couple of people, they said, oh, but they're gonna make it nice, they're going to make it look nice. But if they were so arrogant to do this while their application is pending, now that they have their use variance, it's gonna be a garage. So I open it up to this council to decide how you wanna move forward with this appeal. Do you wanna discuss it further? Do you wanna put it on for a discussion at the next council meeting? Do you wanna just say, the zoning board gave them the use variance, so they'll have a garage in the middle of town?
How was it handled back in 2018 with the storage facility behind Walgreens?
They appealed,
When
the
it went to
borough
court?
appealed.
Well,
Oh, they appealed.
no, there was a denial.
Right.
You know, just to clarify, there is only one appeal from a land use decision that this council will hear, and that's an appeal of a grant of a use variance. So
Correct.
the self-storage facility was denied by the board, and that was litigated in the Superior Court. You are one of very few communities that have an ordinance that permits a review of a use variance. And the reason that it exists under the land use law, that a grant of the use variance is contrary to the zoning that presently exists, and therefore the governing body may review those determinations.
So it's in violation of our present land use.
Right. I wouldn't say it's in violation. What it is, it was a variance was requested to deviate from the zoning standards. So
And the
once they-
zoning board granted that
And the zoning
use
board
variance to this
granted the
property owner.
variance, correct.
It's the CBD1 zone, and its ordinances were meant to provide an attractive and pedestrian-friendly environment.
So that situation in 2018, to go back to my question, was a different process than what we're
It was an
looking at here.
entirely different process. So
Got
the
it.
intention of the law is that if there is a use variance granted, which means that a use is not permitted in that zone, then the governing body, which creates the zoning through ordinances, can have the ability to review that determination.
Whereas in that situation, the Board of Adjustment denied them. And they took it to court.
So,
The zoning board voted no on that.
Correct, right. Versus
then-
here,
so
the
the
zoning board
applicant took-
voted yes and granted them the use variance.
No.
And isn't that
Oh,
also,
the opposite.
Okay.
now, isn't that also in direct opposition to our master plan for the downtown area? And I see John shaking his head in affirmative.
I could speak, any technical questions the council may have, I
Well,
was at every hearing.
I
so.
do not want to hear from Mr. Yakimic because you are to review the record before the board. We are not going
I
extraneous.
thought you liked me, Brian.
Extraneous of the record. No, I don't want to prejudice a
I
determination here.
So, if we were to do nothing, does the applicant still have to
Okay.
appear before the zoning committee?
For a site
Okay.
plan.
All right, so where we are at, this appeal was filed September 30. The governing body has 95 days to make a determination. If you fail to make a determination in 95 days, the board decision stands. And in order to make a decision, you would need to get the evidence that was submitted to the board and also the transcripts of the hearings. That would include, the evidence would include the reports from Mr. Yakimic, the testimony that he gave at the board,
And Mr. Lyden,
and Mr.
right,
Lyden.
the planner.
So that's what you would need. And what it is that the review is considered pursuant to the law de novo, anew. So basically, you review the evidence and you can make 3 determinations. Leave the board decision as it is, reverse the board decision, or modify that decision. If whatever action you take, there may or may not be an appeal, and if you take no action, there may or may not be further appeal. But this case is sort of like in the middle when I started to look at what the record was. As the mayor indicated, they were granted a use variance. There's still a site plan approval. There's still further proceedings in order to perfect that approval going forward.
So, but that's what I'm saying. So now, let's just say there wasn't an appeal, right? And they got the okay. They would still have to go before the zoning board again?
They would go back to the zoning board for site plan approval.
And so
because they would
site
still
plan
have
approval, is
jurisdiction.
the zoning board could say, hey, you know, we don't like how this looks, we wanted to have a picture of the borough attorney on the side and,
Oh, Brian?
say, we
I
think
drive by every day too.
that would make this better. So there's one more step.
There's
And if they
another-
don't?
There's another step, but you don't know what the board.
Right.
We don't know.
But
Because they,
But
like I said, he was getting violations during the pending of the application. So it's like when you get an estimate, you know, you hire a contractor, and you have them come here, you want an estimate, and they don't call you back. And you say, well, they're not calling me back to give me an estimate, what's going to happen after I sign that contract?
Right.
But now, the zoning board was put there to do a job, and they did the job. Now, this, I feel like we put people in place, and we want, and we expect them to do stuff, and then when they do stuff, then we're like, oh, what's going on here, but that's why we put them there. So I almost feel like why are we stepping in on something that...
Because you're an elected official,
Yeah.
and what's best for the town.
But I put those people in place there.
Yeah, but in real time, the engineer and the planner and the chairman of the board all spoke against it right before the vote. So the people who we have in place there for protecting our interest voted spoke against it.
But
And
voted
then it
for
came out that they approved it. So I think I know there's something.
So I don't understand,
Something
you speak
smells
against
fishy
something and then vote for something.
Right.
So
what
would
is
they
that?
come, the individuals involved come and explain that to us?
No.
You said it counted.
If something is imposed upon them, it's in the resolution for site plan approval, they have to do
And
it.
everyone on this
They didn't
board
have
was,
to do
it was
They had
appointed.
5 violations of parking trucks.
If they violate the resolution of site plan approval, they wouldn't get a CO.
And then you'll still have the ugly garage.
And we're talking about downtown, Mayor. The downtown, I consider where the Oakland drugstore was, that's the heart of downtown. That is definitely the heart of downtown. And when you have it taken over by 2 auto repair and truck repair locations, it's just something that you don't want in the heart of your downtown.
Plus, I remember Kimmick she wrote down from Kimmick, so she must listen to everything. She couldn't go to the vote. I said, why didn't you go to the vote then if you went to everything? I called her afterwards, her phone number's up there. She was sick, and she couldn't make the in-person meeting. But he said, the engineer said, left turns. There's gonna be a lot of left turns going into that garage. Do you think you have traffic problems now?
So then,
You're too
my
young to lose your voice.
one, you know, is it better to have a vacant building than have something there? And this is just me thinking, and I don't know where I am really on this. I'm just asking questions because part of me is, you know, they had a job, they did it, and maybe you don't like it, maybe you do like it, but they did their job. Why do we have to step in?
Because we're in the process.
But
Because we're the elected officials.
well, we're elected
Representing
officials, but
all
I
the
understand
town.
that. I understand that.
But perhaps I can offer a suggestion.
Okay.
I think a lot of what we're discussing here is somewhat speculation, because we don't have the record from the board yet. So my suggestion is, this was September 30th, we have 95 days, it goes to the beginning of January. You know, maybe my math's off, like January 4th.
Couple of
but
days.
I don't know. My suggestion is that I certainly will request the record
Thank
from
you, Nick.
the zoning board. That should be distributed to the governing body, and the governing body could say at a meeting, yes, we want to schedule a hearing, or we don't want to hear it, so that we
I
can let
think,
the people know.
I like that suggestion a lot, actually.
I agree.
I agree with Mr. Chakowski
Okay.
on that.
So what
So
I
now
will
what do we
do,
do now?
just so that we're clear, I will make a request from the Board of Adjustment Secretary to get all the reports, the application, the resolution,
And a
and
testimony.
the transcripts, so that a package can be put together by the Borough Clerk for distribution to everyone, including myself. And that may take some time, but I would suggest maybe not the first meeting in November, but the second. You make a determination whether you want to hold a hearing or not, based upon what you've looked at.
So now when we hold the hearing, who comes to the hearing?
Anyone can come to the hearing.
Do we invite the zoning board members?
You don't.
Do we
have-
subpoena anybody?
No.
Okay.
Because all you're doing is looking at the record for the board. So for lack of a better way to put it, it's similar to what
An appeal from
happens
municipal
with.
court?
Yeah, it
Okay.
happens with like an appeal from a municipal court. You look at the evidence and make the determination. So what I was going to say, you're almost acting like the Board of Adjustment when you review it.
But can we invite the members of the Board of Adjustment and we, after we read all the paperwork to ask them questions?
No,
Oh,
Can the woman who's a complainant, can we ask her questions?
no,
so who can we ask questions of?
no one. You
Oh.
have to review the record.
So
We ask each other questions.
So, Mr. Chakowski, this raises an interesting point, in the fact that I guess Oakland's unique compared to a lot of other towns where they have a way of recourse coming back to the council. Is that a best practice, or should we change our bylaws to address that?
You could certainly change the ordinance.
Could you just
I'm-
explain to the residents what we're talking about?
I'm not in favor of the governing body reviewing decisions of our autonomous boards.
Correct.
That's my personal opinion. I could only tell you that the land use law has that provision, as I indicated before, is that you can elect by ordinance to review grants of use variances. And the policy determination made by the legislature at that time was, since that's a decision contrary to the zoning ordinance as it presently exists. So,
We would have to change the ordinance.
correct, you would change the ordinance that you would no longer have that appellate jurisdiction. As I said, most communities, if someone is dissatisfied with the determination of the Board of Adjustment, it would be reviewed by the Superior Court.
And if we do that, Mayor, they would never come back to us.
Correct.
We'd never have this problem again.
Correct.
So
But we don't have
could we
it.
ask-
I don't think we have.
We can't change it in the middle.
Right.
No, I know that.
Right now. But so could we ask Mr. Chakowski to write up an
One thing at a
ordinance?
time.
Yeah,
First, we
let's
have
do
to
this
review
first.
all the records, right? Everyone is requested.
I would prefer to get the ordinance changed before somebody
I don't
else
think you
appeals.
can.
No,
Oh,
we have-
oh,
yeah.
so the- okay.
I mean, you're basically obligated to make a
Where we are now,
determination
yes.
or make no determination, whether you change the ordinance or not, is not going to affect this appeal. If you change the ordinance, then basically it would probably be effective the beginning of the year because of timing.
Right.
But as I said, I think we should get the record. I think the record should be distributed. I think everyone could look at it. We can have another meeting. We can go through that. And then if you want to, we'll schedule a hearing before the expiration.
But
of
you
the
said we
95
can't ask anybody questions at a hearing.
Correct.
It's
I mean,
only comes to us.
basically, the hearing is for the review of the record.
Oh,
And you're going to
okay.
state your reasons for what your determination is. Because it's typical, like, whenever there is a challenge to a board action, the court is obligated to review the record before the board. The only thing that the court has that's different is that you will get briefs from attorneys and perhaps oral argument from attorneys, but there is no testimony.
So we can't question our engineer or our planner.
Correct.
But in one way, if you look at it, it almost acts like an insurance policy against a Fugazi-type zoning board, where they're all, let's say for argument's sake, they all love amusement parks, and somebody comes along with a proposal to put a Ferris wheel right in the middle of downtown, and they all voted yes. And we said, what are you doing? And then it would be able to come back to us and we could say, hold on the Ferris wheel. It doesn't belong downtown. I mean, it is an insurance policy against a Fugazi type zoning board.
I hope that word is in the meeting minutes twice now, Lisa.
What does he mean by that?
A Fugazi, yeah, it's a screw up.
Definitely look into that. I will amend the meeting minutes at the next, if I don't see that word in there.
I didn't either. I was almost embarrassed to say I didn't understand what he was saying.
No, Fugazi means a fake or somebody just doesn't know what they're doing.
Like my sunglasses are Oakley's, they're Fugazi.
Got it. Thank you. Okay, so we leave it that you're going, we have to have Kathy provide the record.
We'll start making the
We'll-
arrangements to
we'll
the
make
transcripts and
those
putting all the rest of the documents together.
Great, thank you. All right, so now we have the downtown redevelopment proposal.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to take my mask off for this. I've got a short presentation, and really, what this is all about is, you know, we've been working on this for about the last 6-8 months. And we've looked at other towns, and, you know, we're asking ourselves, how come Oakland continues to lag behind Franklin Lakes, Wyckoff, Midland Park, Fort Lee, Cedar Grove? Everybody's improving their downtown but us. So what we did was we started taking a look at this, trying to understand. Hang on. Oh, Mayor, please don't interrupt. So,
You know what, I'm an attorney, I always ask what the pronouns mean. I'm sorry.
So, what I've done is I started investigating this, and just so you know, the presentation that you're going to see right here tonight has been vetted by the borough attorney. It's been vetted.
You have?
Yep, he's looked at it. Okay, we've met with the borough planner. Okay, Councilman Pignatelli's been with me at several of the meetings. I also see we have a couple stakeholders here in the audience as well who are business owners in town. We've also questioned them and asking them if this was something of interest. So let's just jump right into the presentation real quick. It's about 15 slides. I'll move relatively quickly through this, and then we'll get to the conclusion. So really, this discussion has two related parts. Part one is the downtown rehabilitation and preservation, and part two is the preservation and character of Oakland. So we're only going to focus on part one today. Next slide. Downtown preservation and rehabilitation. All right,
Oh,
so
it's up here.
Yep.
I'm looking at there.
Yeah, the monitor's not working back there. So what's the area we're talking about? Our downtown goes from Franklin Avenue really up to Oak Street. And when you come down Franklin Ave, you come down, you see the little strip malls down by the cleaners, and then you come up to the gas station, then you got the Bush House, you keep going further up, you've got the Krausers on the left, you've got the liquor store on the left, used to be another dry cleaner, you go on the right-hand side, you got the banks. And it also includes the Copper Tree Shopping Mall. It also includes where the post office is with that mall, okay? And it also includes where the hardware store is. And if you look at what happened in Oakland, I mean, there's no congruency in the architecture, any planning that's been put into the downtown. Okay? Mayor, please don't interrupt us.
I'm talking to Brian.
Okay? So this is just a screenshot of our downtown from 1885 to 1960. And if you look at 1960 at present, nothing's changed in the last 60 years. I mean, let's face it, you know, we failed our residents and our businesses. Next slide, please. I asked our historian to help me prepare the slide here as far as, you know, what Oakland back in the late 1800s and early 1900s used to be a vacation destination for the rich people in New York City because we had a train station down here. And our downtown was these beautiful Victorian houses, and there was a lot of money here, including the Academy. The Academy used to go from Yawpo all the way down to, I believe it's Maple where the salons are. And I mean, it was this wonderful Victorian building. Imagine if we saved that today, what a draw this would have been to this community. But, you know, this is just to illustrate the fact that, you know, with poor planning, we're in this really messy situation. Next slide. So what's the result? So the result is pretty simple. We have a loss of pride in our downtown because it's really shabby. It's unkept in appearance. We've got a loss of businesses. We've got 2 empty businesses down right now that are unoccupied because it's not attractive for the businesses or the residents. Think about your first presentation when you come into town. You come off Route 287 off of 208 south, and you're met by the Bush House, which is right in front of you, which is in disrepair, it's not even occupied. That's the message we're sending to people coming to visit Oakland, prospective buyers in Oakland, and that's not the message we want to convey. And probably the most important part of this is this has a direct effect on everybody sitting in this room with their property taxes. Next slide. So what we did was we checked with Chopper Russo, who is the Oakland Remax realtor, and this slide was based on the medium housing values. We are $75,000 to $100,000 below our 5 surrounding towns, based upon Mawa, Franklin Lakes, Wyckoff, and Midland Park, and this is based on a square foot basis. Next slide. So what does Oakland have? Oakland has this beautiful bucolic mountain views, and we have a river that comes through town. We have hiking up in the mountains. I mean, these other towns, except for Mawa, backs right up to the mountains. We've got a DPW, we got roads, we've got a rec program, which is, the envy of the state and the county with the work that our rec department does. We've got the best schools that continue to, make the numbers in U.S. World News report. And also we've got the best police and emergency services in town. So why is Oakland suffering? Because we have a poor downtown compared to the other towns. So this is really the solution right here. And this document is actually pulled from Oakland's master plan, okay? And I just want to read the parts in red because I'm sure it's a little hard to read. On the left it says pursue financial assistance programs that will help small business owners, number 1. Number 2, encourage the rehabilitation of existing buildings through bonus zoning incentives and consider specific architectural guidelines to revitalize the condition of existing buildings and properties. This has been on the books for years. On the right it says establish a streetscape thematic design and improve and enhance features which are important, defining and identifying the character of Oakland. Okay, next slide. So how do we do this? Well, in speaking to our attorney and our planner, it turns out there's a law in the books. It's NJSA 40.A.21. And what this does is this will provide a vehicle for the businesses to invest. Next slide, please. So what is the law? It's the New Jersey tax abatement law. In New Jersey, the 5-year tax abatement law, NJSA 40A, the statute authorizes municipalities to grant 5-year tax exemptions and/or abatements in areas of need of rehabilitation to promote the construction and rehabilitation of residential, commercial, and industrial properties. And really, this will be perfect for the downtown area, from Franklin Ave all the way up to Oak Street. Next slide, please. Here's a real, very simple back-of-the-envelope explanation of it. We took building, business A is assessed at $675,000. Let's just say they're paying $20,000 a year in property taxes right now. If the business decides to take advantage of the program, they will continue to pay the $20,000 in taxes on the current property the way it is, okay? And there will be incremental increases every year, just like all of our taxes go up, all right? At the end of 5 years, whatever improvements they put on that, in year 6, the town will come in and they will reassess the building and then bring it right back on the books for the value of all the improvements. If they want to put a second story on it, they want to put a facade on it, whatever improvements, now we're all back up on the books, and therefore we're giving the business owners an opportunity to invest in their businesses and offset that revenue.
Excuse me, doesn't it say there is a tax abatement for 5 years?
Correct.
That means they're not going to pay any taxes while they're doing the work?
No, listen to me.
On the addition.
On the additional, the new work.
So let's say it's $100,000.
Correct.
So who's going to pay? The residents?
No, hang on a
Make up
second.
for it?
Hang on. Mayor, you're conflating the issue once again.
I
They
just
can-
spoke to an accountant who looked at your numbers, that's why.
They continue to pay the taxes on the original value of the property. And what we're doing, Mayor, I'm sorry, I guess you're not behind this program.
No, I just looked at the numbers and was confused and went to
Okay.
an accountant.
So that's it. Next slide, please. So how do we do this? Number 1, we prepare a resolution to designate the area in rehabilitation from Franklin Avenue all the way up to Oak Street. After that's done, the council submits the proposed resolution to the planning board for review. The planning board submits recommendations regarding the proposed resolution within 45 days, and then the council adopts a resolution designating the areas of rehabilitation. Next slide. just a couple slides of what Oakland could look like. I mean, if you're looking at this Victorian era, that, you know, the businesses can pick and choose. You can put it on a second story, but everyone is unique and cute, kind of like Disney World, if this is what the planning board chooses.
Main Street USA.
Main Street USA. Here's slide 2. From the look at the left, perhaps what they can do on the right. There you go. There's Look Salon and Salon. Here's just a different look of, but just changing that facade and making it more attractive and making it more welcoming for Oakland. And here's Seal Shopping Center. This is very interesting, the backstory on this. The Seal Shopping Center is the one at the corner of Yawpaw and 202. The original builder built 3 of these shopping malls, exactly the same footprint throughout Bergen County. Okay? You're looking at Oakland's on the top. This is Saddle Rivers, all right? All they did is they put a gable on it, they freshened up the front end, and look at the difference in how inviting that would be. Coming right across from Walgreens as you're coming into town, and really, it's a simple fix. Give the business owners an opportunity for that tax abatement and let them invest in their properties. Because we can put as fancy sidewalks as we want, as best lights that we want, but if we can't get the business owners to buy in and invest with their properties, this will not happen.
I agree with you. But
Okay.
I have a question.
Go ahead.
Councilman Van Eck was on the planning board. Aren't you involved in the downtown when we started, or was it Councilman Lou Levy? We've been working on this at the planning board since you've been on the planning board, and you haven't attended any meetings. Why didn't you bring this up at the planning board? You keep saying go back to the planning board.
We did talk about this exact thing, this exact idea, this exact law, the NJSA 4821-1.
You did.
I did when I was on the planning board last year, and it's continuing on. Eric is council president, and it's continuing the efforts, and I think this is a great presentation and appreciate him making the time to deliver this.
Thank you, Kevin.
It's not mine, thank you.
Oh, no.
So, anyway, in closing here, so we need to pass a resolution, designate the downtown area for rehabilitation, partner with Oakland businesses. It's important. We got to partner with our business. We got to educate our businesses. I see Mr. Klepper's over there. We've talked to other business owners throughout town and say, hey, listen, we're going to help you help us backstop the downtown.
I met with the officers of the they call it Community of Commerce, Chamber of Commerce. They had no idea what I was talking about.
And on point number 4, we also want to illustrate the beautification of the downtown businesses. I mean, obviously, one thing we've been talking about is Bush Plaza for the last several years. I think we have an opportunity right now to take now that the Great Oak Park Committee has finished that project, except for the band shell, I think we can challenge them to find some money and revenue and just do a beautiful landscape project where Bush Plaza is. And obviously, the town's constantly working on finding grants for sidewalks, new street lights, and trees across the business district. And this is my last slide. In summary, embrace the implementation of the law and, get an ordinance on the books, a resolution on the books to get this to the planning board. And we all work in a, Mayor, watch this slide.
I'm listening.
It says right here, the
I
council
read it on
work
paper.
together in a bipartisan
I left when I read
partnership to make this happen.
Bipartisan, that would be great if you're willing to work on a bipartisan level. That would be wonderful. I would encourage it, just like we did with the marijuana committee. It was a wonderful committee, and I suggest, just as we did with the marijuana committee, we do this as an ad hoc committee.
No, hang on.
As a committee and form, we always talked about having an architectural review board. That means before they would go to the zoning board or the planning board, they would have to get the approval from an architectural review board.
Mayor, you're getting a little ahead of yourself here. So the first step is, I'd like to make a motion that the Borough Council prepare a resolution
You can't do that
for
by
next
the
meeting,
bylaws.
determine.
You can't do that by the bylaws.
Excuse me, Rick?
You have to make a recommendation for next meeting.
That's what I'm saying.
And
I just said that. For next meeting, that we have a resolution prepared for the planning board to declare this area of rehabilitation for their assessment.
I think the planning board has to really hear this as a proposal.
They definitely have, unless it's changed drastically from now on. They have heard this presentation.
Right. I think what you have is, you have our memo on rehabilitation. The planning board gets the proposed resolution and they hold the hearing.
I think it
That's
was
it.
March of it was right before
Okay.
the pandemic, the present,
Sounds
first
good. You
meeting
know
of
what?
March of 2020, that
If it works,
presentation
it
was
would be
made.
wonderful.
What I like about this, Mayor, you know, I'm sick of people saying, well, you know, we want to look like Ridgewood. You know, I'm tired of that. I'd rather people say, we want to look like Oakland. I've been to towns, have you ever been to Chatham?
Yes.
Beautiful downtown area, beautiful, you want to go there.
Yes.
And if we could do this for our businesses, where people from other towns say, we want to go to Oakland and shop. We don't want to go to Ringwood. You know, we don't want to go, or whatever town is
For 20
talking about.
years, you
Maybe
had
we'll
the
get the
majority,
brewery.
so I don't understand why this week,
Yeah.
all of a sudden you're bringing it up. But I think it's a great idea, and I hope it works. I really do.
I do
Because
too.
I would love to see it.
There's only one elephant in the room, and that is, we still have to propose, and we still have it on our radar, that we want to bring a sewer system downtown. And the sewer system is going to change the whole dynamic of all the commercial businesses heretofore after the sewer is in. So I don't know what happens
is
then,
why, too,
but I
I'm
think we
putting
should
up
take
that-
one step at a time and get to where we want to go. Put this plan in place to have it ready to go when we're finished doing the downtown infrastructure necessary to carry all the businesses that we would like to see in the future.
Mr.
I would
Biel-
like to see Mr. Heffernan on a committee, since you're the historian.
Just,
That
if
would
I
be
could
great.
just,
I hope you will consider that.
with what John said about waiting for the sewers, when I bought my home, I had this rickety deck on the back of my house, and I said to my wife, I said, you know what, I don't want to do anything with the deck, let's just leave the deck there, because, you know, in 3 years, we're either going to move, or we're going to put an addition on, and then we'll do whatever. So 14 years later,
You're still in the same house?
I'm still in the same house. I had the rickety deck. I couldn't use the rickety deck because it was falling down, and then I ended up putting the addition on. But if in the first couple of years, if I had put on a nice deck, I could have enjoyed the deck all those years. So it's a little bit, you know, maybe it would be in a perfect world, you would do the sewers and then beautify everything, but you can't wait. You know, at some point you have to say, hey, let's do something.
I agree with you.
know,
Yeah, exactly.
So
Well,
what
you
happens
get-
if a business refuses to do it?
well, they don't. No, this would be an incentive. They
This
don't-
is an
they don't-
incentive.
It's an
They don't.
incentive.
You know.
We want
Yeah.
the businesses,
I
we
don't-
want to give the businesses the tools and the ability to
Right.
do this.
Okay.
We're not, you know, this is, we want to encourage them, we want to be partners on this.
Thank you.
I'd just like to point out that it's 9:30.
Yes, so
That's
we
all.
need your committee report, Graham, and,
But hang on, I want to make sure we got to put a vote on the resolution for Mr. Chakowski to get
Well,
that
I'll
done.
have the resolution for the next meeting.
Very good, thank you.
Perfect.
Thank you for your time.
marijuana, that's Councilman Pignatelli and Councilman Van Eck.
Sure, well.
Talk
we
about
had-
money,
Right. We had a great presentation from Frank and Mike at the last meeting. So what I have, it's in front of us, the I-4 zone doesn't include the final adoption of the uses in what was the COIP zone, which is now the I-4 zone for distilling, plenary distilling, brewing. So we need to add that in that ordinance. That was the only thing that jumped out at me after reviewing from last meeting. I'm fine with what we proposed. In relation to the other ordinances, such as licensing, that we talked about, we need to prepare, that 10% local workforce requirement was important, and to put it in that would be consistent with other processes that we have, that wouldn't be outrageously expensive compared to other things that we do. But that, and this is from, I said, from day one, I think very, very important, critical, that all tax revenues from the cannabis businesses, the 1% or the 2%, depending on which one, which is outlined in the ordinance, goes towards paying down our debt service and then potentially capital expenditures as well. That is the fiscally responsible thing to get this town to pay as you go as fast as possible. That is the right thing to do, and that is what this is all about when it all boils down to.
and I want to thank you, it was a wonderful committee. The committee was set up with members of different we were bipartisan. We also had members on the committee who came into this committee on opposing sides, and we all worked together, we did research together, took tours, and that's the way we should be working. So I thank both Councilman Pignatelli and Councilman
So
Bennett.
I would love to see a draft of ordinances related to these.
Well, we have
Well,
something.
well, if I may, Mayor,
Yes,
we do have an ordinance on the zoning.
Yes.
The only comments that I have on the zoning, there seems to be some misnumbering when you go through it, but that's really the only comment. It certainly furthers the zoning.
And the
Right.
I-4 zone as well.
where we had the I-4.
And then, you know, well, Steve will have to add the I-4. The other issue with regard to the licensing, we have absolutely no direction what needs to be put in that ordinance.
From the
How-
state, you mean, from the
No,
state
no, no,
regulatory
not
commission?
not from the state. How are you going to handle licensing in the Borough of Oakland? What is the criteria for the license? What does the license look like? Who will evaluate the
That's what that
proposed?
comes from the state.
The state issues a license. If
Well-
you're going to be issuing a license also.
We did
So
speak
under-
about that. The police department reviews all the background on all the employees.
There's other issues that need to be resolved, because let's say you get 15 licenses. Who's evaluating the licenses? What is the criteria you're using to evaluate them?
We did set a limit for the number of licenses.
I understand, but, you know, if you get a number of licenses, what is the criteria used to accept or reject the license? We've heard one thing about workforce and the like. There is a lot of other criteria.
Yeah, there's the workforce. They have to bring in their own water. They have to have a air scrubbing unit. They have to have security. The police department has to do the background checks on all of them.
And who's going to evaluate the licenses?
Well, the police department will recommend,
The police will evaluate the employees. I
Right.
don't think they should be evaluating the entire license.
Well,
It should be a commission or
qualified
committee?
to-
You're either going to create a committee or the council will have to do it.
Well, I think we'll have to create a committee. please.
Create a committee.
we have the cannabis committee, why not
Yeah,
have
why
them?
can't the cannabis committee?
I mean, we
do
did
it?
a lot, we did a
have
lot
the
of work. We
committee.
educated ourselves.
You had, the cannabis committee was ad hoc.
Right.
You need to create then an actual committee.
Well, I'm saying we
had
could
the
take
two
those
council-
members
right,
and
the
make
two
them.
council members.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
it was Mike, and it was, Frank,
Yep.
and it was,
Matt Goodrich.
Matt
thank
Goodrich.
you, I'm blanking.
I just have
Who
a
was
que-
on the first aid, so that was very helpful.
I have a question about the water use.
Yes.
We keep saying they have to supply their own water. Are we requiring them to remove the water also? I mean, they can't just dump it into
I
our...
think it recycles, doesn't it? Didn't it?
Well, I don't know. We keep saying that we're requiring them
Recycle it?
to bring their own water.
No, we said that they can dispose of it, but, you know, they have to use the appropriate methods, you know, that's approved for discharge to groundwater.
Okay, I mean,
Well,
I
it
don't...
wouldn't necessarily be discharged to groundwater, it'd be discharged to, well, depending on where it was, or when it was, that may make a difference as well. But yes, they would have to have an approved septic in order to do that. The focus of the committee's discussions was really about the stress on the water system.
Right.
Highlands issues related to that, and the import of water would specifically apply, I believe, to the, any manufacturers or cultivators.
Well, why don't, Brian, why doesn't Brian create a list of what we need to do?
I will have a draft ordinance for you.
With setting up a committee?
We'll provide for the committee for the
I think it's a great
evaluation.
committee.
But you will have the framework to go through what you need to go through.
Okay.
I don't know if I'll have it for the next meeting, but certainly the second meeting in November.
Okay.
Brian, do you know
Thank
of
you.
any municipality that already has a protocol for this?
Especially the
There's
licensing.
protocol in Paramus, who has permitted medical, Fort Lee, North Bergen.
Brian, there's also, I think we had a sample from North Arlington, I believe. that
Yeah,
had a
I mean,
licensing
there's a
procedure.
few I
Yeah.
don't like. I like the Paramus one.
Well, we're not doing retail, so in case
Yeah.
everybody understands, it won't be
Right.
retail, it's manufacturing,
Cultivation.
cultivating, and
Wholesale.
Service.
wholesale, and in certain zones of the town, away from the residents.
We should move on because we have committee reports.
So-
Oh,
I just-
If I can, two things. One is the point, we also need a portion of the code to be amended to address the taxation issue with that?
Well, I'm going to cover both.
Right, okay. And is there any issue with bringing forward the zoning ordinance? Because frankly, if we don't introduce the zoning ordinance at the next meeting, it's not going to get adopted this year.
I would suggest we do the zoning ordinance no matter what.
I think we should move forward with that, because then that has to go to the planning board, and it
Right,
takes
so
even
what we'll
longer.
do
Right,
is
and the
we'll-
planning board's meeting early because
League.
no, because Veterans Day.
Veterans Day.
So we're meeting next week.
Yeah.
So, yeah, we should move on the zoning,
Yeah.
absolutely. If everyone-
And we should move the meeting. Let's go.
Okay, so the next thing is engineering services for the PD roof replacement.
The roof.
Roof replacement.
Oh, I thought we,
No, it just seems very expensive. So can we get other prices, other pricing? I know we approved 2 other engineering firms to get pricing from in the beginning of the year. So it would be good on this one to get pricing from those 2
And
other
that's
firms.
fiscally responsible, so that's a good
Absolutely.
idea.
That's why we did that.
Okay, we're going to discuss it further?
I thought we decided that.
No? Okay. Then engineering services for the PFOA, PFOS treatment, that's water.
That's water, correct.
Yes, and I also spoke to the congressman about that. If it's a mandate by the state, we have to get help. If the state is mandating certain things, we need help.
Yes, that is not an expansion of an existing program.
No, this is a brand-new thing that the
Yes.
state has known about for years, and all of a sudden, New Jersey's the first state, I believe, to put limits on how much you can expect to have in your water system. And PFOAs and PFOSs, for anybody, it's on your Teflon-coated pans, it's on your fire equipment, it's on clothing that might be rain-resistant. There are a number of places where it naturally occurs, and it gets into the water system, and it comes up in the water system. And all of a sudden, this is brand new for the state of New Jersey, and one of our wells is creeping above where we should be with the PFOAs. And they just came up with these limits, which I think are 10, Rich?
14
14?
parts per trillion.
And we're at 21 or 20 or 18?
The MCL is 14 parts per trillion for PFOA, 13 parts per trillion for PFOS.
Right.
Well 10 on the annual average, the way they calculate the MCL is at 14.8.
And most people here do not know what we're talking about.
Right.
Right. So
And
it's
what's the federal limit?
Well, there's no limit, there's no drinking water standard, there is an advisory level.
An advisory,
Of
yeah.
70 parts per trillion.
Of 70, and New Jersey's making
70
14.
parts per trillion. Not in parts per million.
And it comes in
Parts per
products,
trillion.
here's the list of products: non-stick cookware, stain-resistant coatings, water-resistant clothing, grease-proof food packaging, and even firefighting foam.
So what we're saying is 1 gallon of this chemical versus 70 trillion gallons
Of water.
of water.
And it could cost the town millions of dollars to mitigate and
Yes.
remedy this.
Mhm.
Well, it likely will, okay?
And it's
So,
gonna, and
what
they've
is-
given us a year to catch up on it.
So.
And it could cost us
Allendale
upwards of $2
started
million
this.
to do so.
Allendale did a program for the mayors on this, and it was frightening, and then I heard that Allendale was considering giving up the water and selling it to Suez, but that is going to cost the residents so much.
Suez water right now is about 3 times the amount of what you pay for your water.
The
Oh, that's you, Allendale.
Allendale,
That's,
the sale of the utility is on referendum for this election.
Wow.
Didn't I mean, obviously, the children in Washington are still playing, but I mean, wasn't there money set aside for water improvements and grants for cities that need this? And would this not fit into that criteria if Washington can get their act together?
Well, that was the other reason why I spoke to Congressman Gottheimer. I'm waiting they're getting back to me on that.
Because I think we should pursue that.
So what did you put on engineering services, so what do we need?
Right, so a couple of things here. One, the community is going to be receiving a notice probably next week sometime, because there was a technical exceedance here, there is a notification requirement, so everybody will be getting a notice. The other thing that we're required to do is to install treatment on well 10. We're also monitoring levels at our other wells, and it looks like we could also need treatment at well 5 and well 9 as well. So we are seeking engineering authorization to go through and start the design project, or the design process for a project to install treatment on those 3 wells. You know, this is something that is, in terms of the DEP, something that needs to happen, you know, much sooner rather than later. So we wanted to bring this forward as quickly as possible. We'd like to get authorization at the next meeting to start that process.
We have to. No choice.
Let's move forward.
Good choice.
We have, yes, we're required, we're ordered to do so.
That's why we're trying to bring businesses into town.
All right, any new business? We have 15 minutes. Any old business?
Quick new business, sorry. I was on the rec field this weekend, and there was my son was playing a baseball game, and someone on the field almost adjacent to it was flying. It was a small helicopter. It wasn't a drone. It was a helicopter.
Oh.
I mean, just it was very distractive to the boys, but that's besides the point. But it just didn't seem safe to me, and I don't know if we need to have the rec maybe put some kind of restrictions on it, that if there's organized sports on there, maybe.
It was like a remote helicopter.
Yeah, a toy helicopter. But
Just checking.
But if it were to get out of control and do something, I just felt it wasn't the safest thing, and I'd hate to because the rec field to me is the perfect place to fly a helicopter. But if there's stuff going on, I just don't think it should.
So,
When our rec liaison.
Councilman Van Heck, can you bring us up, when's the next rec meeting?
Next month, we just had one on Monday.
All right.
So,
Maybe they can allocate a couple hours
Right.
at one of the fields for recreational model flying.
I'll bring it up, for sure.
So
Thank you.
I think it's something that the rec commission can come back with a recommendation on. Just so you're aware, the ordinance, the Borough Code does have a list of permitted uses, prohibited uses for the rec field. We could always modify the code accordingly.
I'll let you
I'll
know
look into
about
it.
Saturday. I'll let you, we'll find out about Saturday.
Something on old business.
Old business.
Real quick, the back, these pictures, I keep bringing it up. It's terrible, we gotta fix them up, get those
They
new
were
pictures in
supposed to
there.
tape his picture.
I know, so I'm just bringing it up again, it's old business, I keep bringing it up.
It's falling.
Talk about civic pride.
Rich, can we just fix
We'll fix the picture.
Okay,
Let's move on.
all of them.
Okay.
So we can get out of here for 10 o'clock.
Council committee report.
All right, I'll start.
Can you talk fast?
DPW, bridge is still safe to drive, estimated cost 5.66 million. Sidewalk project is moving forward, so that's really good news. The OCC next meeting is November 1st. Didn't talk about this, but I have been talking about trying to do this. But it is official, the local BTV through streaming is now available. So that's Roku, Fire Stick, Android TV, Apple TV, through a company called Didja. Doesn't cost the taxpayers anything to do this, and our Oakland TV channel is available all throughout the New York City metro area through streaming services for those people who cut the cord or do things streaming through their phone. Really happy about that, very excited, this is great news for us. Look out for the next newsletter, but if you want to write something or contribute, please contribute to our newsletter. The Shade Tree Commission is looking for 2 new members, so please email me if you're interested. We really want volunteers on that committee. Updates and feedback are being sent in. Ed Clark, I see him here. Hey Ed, working real hard with Nancy on that ordinance, follow up on that. We have a meeting coming up as well. And we also have RFQ out for a forester, and we're excited about the tree inventory grant, and that's going to open us up to a lot of opportunities now that we received that grant. So thank you to everybody who's involved in doing that. Recreation Commission, always go to oaklandrec.org. That's oaklandrec.org. Our roller hockey team will be honored at the next council meeting.
Oh.
So at the next council
good.
meeting, roller hockey team will be honored here at the beginning of the meeting.
Okay.
So prepare for that. I know we've got a lot of things to do. We need the list of names. I will talk to Mike Bleeker about it and follow up. I'm not sure if you've already had communication, but tomorrow I will put everybody in touch to make sure we're organized and prepared. We're going to have medals. It's going to be a really awesome thing for their incredible accomplishment. We're going to be creating 2 permanent pickleball courts out of one of the tennis courts. That was a resolution that came up. It's very exciting. Maybe there's more. Details are being worked out right now, but it's a really nice, happy compromise for all the parties involved between tennis and pickleball. We're moving forward on that. I just heard from our commissioner that there are plans in the works that with Indian Hills AD Borough to put together an event for parents and coaches in the coming weeks, so that's exciting too. A lot of good things happening in those committees, and happy Halloween, everybody. Be safe this weekend.
We'll see you on
Stay dry.
Saturday with your children.
I have entered my minivan to be one of the trunk or treat cars.
Whoa,
Yes.
okay. Councilman.
All right, I'm going to be real brief.
Yeah.
Once again, with the Green Team, I just want to congratulate them on their silver award. And also a note on the planning board, we've been working for the last meeting on a 3-home subdivision off of Route 202. More information to follow. That's it. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Councilman.
Yes, everyone, a report from the police department. Halloween is this weekend. Here are a few tips to remember in order to stay safe while trick-or-treating. Be seen. Wear bright colors, add reflective tape to costumes, wear bracelets or necklaces that light up or use a flashlight. Travel in groups, trick-or-treat with your family or in a group of friends. Watch out for cars. Most important, please everyone, if you're driving on Halloween night, be careful about trick-or-treaters. Drivers may not be able to see you. Be careful while walking and crossing the street. And important, bring a cell phone. In case of an emergency, you'll have a way to communicate. From the veterans, the annual Veterans Day ceremony hosted by the American Legion will be Thursday, November 11th at 11:45 a.m. in Oakland Veterans Park around Ramapo Valley Road. Everyone is welcome to attend this worthy ceremony. Bring a handheld U.S. flag. Local churches will ring their bells at 11 a.m. Inclement weather will move the ceremony to the Legion Post 65 at 65 Oak Street. Indian Hills soprano Deborah Mahran will be the guest soloist singing our national anthem and God Bless America. Chabad Jewish Center of Northwest Bergen. County Rabbi Hanek, thank you, Hanek Kaplan will give the invocation and benediction. Currently, Veterans Day honors American veterans of all wars and peacetime service for their patriotism, love of country, and willingness to serve and sacrifice for the common good. Remind everybody, Hazardous Waste Day. Mr. Bialy, you may have more hazardous waste.
Well, just give yourself an extra hour or two when you go up there, because there usually is a line waiting to...
Yeah, get there early.
Get there early.
It starts at 9 a.m. You know, you bring gas, old paint,
everything.
fluorescent bulbs. You know, this is the way to dispose of it so it doesn't wind up in our groundwater, etc. That's it, Mayor.
I
Thank you.
skipped something. Councilman, any news on when the next shredding day is?
Should be coming up.
Right, but we usually have one in the fall and one in the spring. Did I miss it?
No, we haven't had one in the fall.
Michael, could you find out? So we can announce it.
We'll find out.
And the good thing about dropping off your waste, you don't even have to get out of your car. You just
Right.
open up your
Yep.
trunk, and they take everything out and throw it.
All right, you have to be quick.
Maya?
Yep. you got 2 minutes.
Water and sewer, today the borough received bids for the 2021 water main replacement program as required by the NJDEP Water Quality Accountability Act. Locations include, will be Doty Road, Lakeview Terrace, Grandview Avenue, and Mountain View Avenue. Since the bids were received today, well within our engineer's predicted cost, we're hoping to award the construction contract to the responsible bidder during the first council meeting in November. A project start date is not yet available at this time, but we'll provide that information as soon as we receive an accurate timeline. Residents should know there will be no disruption of water, and the Oakland Water Department continues to remain compliant on all schedule with all tasks and requirements associated with the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection's Quality Accountability Act. And I believe we're finished with the relining project, decommissioning of the 3, that's out to bid as yet?
And it's out to bid. Bids will be coming back early the week of Thanksgiving.
Okay, very good. And we're sending out requests for a meeting for the people on Island Terrace on the possibility of them
We're working
receiving
on that.
a water system and getting real water from our wells rather than from their wells. And historical, we're still waiting for the rendition of the proposed stream house replacement building to come back with the changes that we made at our last meeting. That's about it.
Thank you, Councilman.
Happy Halloween to everybody.
Speaking of Halloween, the Oakland Public Events Committee will be hosting the annual Halloween parade this Saturday at 10 a.m. at Valley Middle School. It will be rain or shine. If they're hoping to do it outside. If they have to go inside, they will be inside. A couple years ago, We had done it inside, and they put the blow-up maze in the gym, and they did it, and it was a very well attended event. But hopefully it's outside, and we could do everything normally. Just remember to vote. Election Day is coming, November 2nd. There's new. You won't be signing in on a book anymore. You'll be signing in on a tablet. So just be ready for that. I'm not sure if there's new machines. I think the machines are the same.
The machines are the same this year.
The machines are the same, but you'll be signing in on a tablet. And I was told that it's helpful if you bring your license and present your license. It makes it a little easier. I don't think it's required, but it makes it easier. So just remember that. And and just with voting, at the one meeting, the one gentleman said that we'll know how you vote. You don't know how someone votes on election day. You know that they do. You know that they do vote. You don't know how they voted. And so no one thinks that anything is happening that way. All right, and that's it. Happy Halloween. Thank you.
That's for Casey.
Thank you, Mayor. News from the library. Happy to announce that the air conditioning repair has finally been completed and that they're just waiting to have a final walkthrough inspection. They would like me to remind everyone that a lot of fun activities are planned throughout the fall, so continue to check the online calendar for details. Also, this upcoming weekend, the library is having a craft sale featuring handmade crafts that will make fabulous gifts for the upcoming holidays. They will also have a sale on used media, including DVDs. All sales benefit the Friends of the Oakland Public Library. Also, they asked me to mention that the library is a Toys for Tots location, as well as a drop location for food donations run by the Mothers Club of Oakland, Oakland's Thanksgiving Food Drive. Lastly, a reminder that resources are always available where thousands of ebooks, downloadable audiobooks, TV shows, and movies to card holders for free. For more information, call the library or visit their website.
Mayor?
Happy Halloween.
I have one more thing real quick. Last Monday, we had the Oakland Volunteer Fire Department poster contest and fire prevention night. It was postponed 3 weeks. It was a successful event, and look for the pictures on the Oakland Volunteer Fire Department website and Facebook page. Thank you.
And when is the, Councilman Bennett, when is the deadline for the newsletter this month? Or Michael?
I think it's already
Friday?
passed, because it'll be coming out next week, so
Friday?
we'll be working,
So we have till
but now we're on
Friday.
December.
No, I have till Friday.
Correct.
Okay.
Get on your bills.
You can submit till Friday?
He usually reminds me. Okay, all in favor? Most close to the public.
Aye.
Close?
Aye.
Is anybody? I'm
You gotta
sorry.
make a motion.
I'm sorry. Motion to open to
So
the
moved.
public.
Second.
I'm looking at the clock, I got 3 minutes.
Okay,
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
you got 30 seconds, Kevin.
Plus an hour. Just before I start, before there was a mention about sewers in downtown conflicting, that's not, it's a non-issue, sewers, relative to fixing downtown. And it's a false narrative. I'll be delighted to debate anybody on the topic.
Remember, this is common, we're not debating.
No, I said I would be.
Yeah.
Okay?
You can come to my office anytime, we debate all the time.
No, it's a non-issue. Now, first and foremost, I want to just commend Councilor Kamala for his wisdom in proposing this legislation and working hard to develop it. That's called leadership. It really is. But I have a question first. Does anybody sitting here tonight, is anyone proud of downtown? Show of hands.
Just keep going. Just keep
proud of
going,
Oakland,
because
right.
we're not debating, it's
No,
public
I
comment.
get it, thank you. So if the answer is no, then what are you and we going to do about it? Before you is a proposal to return our downtown to its Victorian heritage. Councilman Kamala's initiative is perhaps the most important piece of legislation, at least in the last 60 years. 60 years, if not since Oakland was founded.
Why? It's because what you decide on this legislation will positively affect our downtown now and for future generations. No question about it. Just as David C. Bush founded Oakland, he had a vision. Our business owners support this initiative. Chopper Russo is in Vegas right now, fully supports this initiative to raise Oakland's property values. And we, the people of Oakland, overwhelmingly support it. The ordinance will begin to heal the destruction wrought upon our downtown since the early 1960s, when the Victorian character.
Excuse me, does anybody want to make a motion to extend the meeting?
I'll motion to extend it 10 minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
Thank you.
Who said no?
I said no.
Well, let's
It has
keep
nothing to
talking.
do with you.
Keep talking.
Thank you.
You're wasting, just keep talking.
Thank you.
All right.
The ordinance will begin to heal the destruction of downtown wrought upon us in the early 1960s, when our Victorian character, our heritage architecturally, had been lost. It will return pride to Oakland, raise our home values, and return the Victorian character to where our roots are, as per the current master plan. It's a win-win-win for Oakland, for homeowners, for business owners, and for our civic pride, and for the current and future generations. And Oakland does not spend a dime on this proposal, not a dime. And through, I think it was pointed out by Councilman Kamala, it's totally, the money spent for fixing downtown will be through incentives given to businesses. There's nothing about this plan not to love. Communities across New Jersey have enacted this program with wonderful results. Go to Boonton, New Jersey, take a look. This New Jersey law has been on the books since 1949, and is even present in our current master plan. Except for making it official, there's really nothing new about it. We're just doing what the master plan says we should do. Let's simply do what the mayor and council has already agreed to when you approve the current master plan, or rather when this body approved the current master plan. This stuff has to happen. Make it happen. This is the stuff of legacies. This is the stuff of plaques. And this is the stuff of civic leadership. We cannot bring back what was destroyed, not at all. But we can sure as hell begin to restore the Victorian charm that our founders of our village started with. Tonight I say to you, carpe diem, seize the day. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak?
Russ?
Hello, Russ
Hi,
Klepper.
give your name, your
Russ
address.
Klepper, I own 3390 Rampo Valley Road, liquor store. I live at 51 Franklin Ave. I've seen this happen since 1982. I go back to Joanne Tweedle, Don Burns, Piccoli.
Oh, my goodness.
Everybody.
Oh, wow.
And it's just talk. Just talk, 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 talk. So we've been there 40 years and nothing's changed. Not a thing. And what I heard tonight, I'm for it. I'm not so sure. I think my building needs an upgrade and improve the looks. But I think there's more involved. I mean, you drive under 287, all I see is power lines everywhere. Sidewalks. I mean, I could put a new sidewalk in, but it's not going to match my neighbors. You know, there's things that have to be done uniformly in addition to what I have to do. So, you know, like I said, since 1982, I've heard the talk many times, and nothing ever gets done.
Thank you. Come to the planning board next Thursday.
I'll try. I got no help.
You'll hear the proposal. Anybody
Thank you.
else? Sorry. Hi.
I want to say thank you. My 13-year-old daughter we've been here for 3 years. She thinks this town
Oh, you
is-
have to give your name and address.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
it's Debbie Mutter, and I live on 101 Walnut Street.
Okay.
I have a 13-year-old daughter that sees the garbage flying over in Copper Tree. She can't believe how this town looks like it's run down. So I commend these gentlemen for wanting to make this
Thank you.
town look good.
We'll all work together.
I hope so, because, I mean, I just
Would
see
you
you
like to
talk.
work with us?
No, I see you talking while he's talking, and I think it's rude.
They talk also, but everybody, okay, thank you. Anybody else? Close?
motion closed.
Second?
All in favor?
Can I just clarify one thing real quick about the newsletter submission?
Yes.
That is just specifically for your mayor's report, I think?
Oh,
Not
sorry.
for the deadline, just want to
Oh.
clarify. It's the 15th of the month to
Oh.
submit, I wasn't wrong, I think that's just
Sorry.
for your mayor's report.
Sorry, sorry. Thank you. It'll be in on Friday. Councilman Salamini.
Bills to be paid, $2,516,257.57, so moved.
Second.
As long as everybody read the bills to be paid, you can vote. Roll call.
Councilman Bialy.
Yes.
Councilman Kamala.
Yes.
Councilman Pinatelli.
Yes.
Councilman Slasinski.
Yes.
Councilman Talamini.
Yes.
Councilman Van Act.
Yes.
Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Next meeting is November 10th. Day before Veterans Day.
Thank you.
We only need 4 more minutes.
It's because they were going to, they were supposed to have John DeBro.